Hello, hello, everyone. It is Ken here, Basketball Rewind. We are live, and we're here to obviously talk about the latest news. We were originally going to talk about other things like CMB and whatnot, which maybe crass to plug it, but did have a recent CMB video that people seem to like. So check that out if you get a chance. Today we're going to be talking about Masai being out. And we're going to kind of break it down into a number of different ways of looking at it. I think that there is a way to talk about these things. I think that there is a way to talk about these things that is not necessarily being crass, but being a little bit more professional about them, if you will. So that's kind of what we're here to do, and kind of give you the neutral but honest take about what's happening and what is to come. So first and foremost, how are you guys?
Well, I tell you, never dull with this team. So I am looking forward to this discussion. I think this is a discussion
Yes.
that's been overdue. It's been always been the elephant in the room, even amongst our own show. To be quite honest with you, at times, I am looking forward to having this discussion that is going to be free flowing. Quite honest to your point, and I think in this case, um, a balanced take on what Masai Ujiri brought to this franchise. I think when it's also done.
Yeah, Coach, your thoughts before we really get into it. You're doing well, all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's been quite a week since the draft. Um,
Wow, it seems like forever.
so I look forward to getting into this discussion on what has happened today.
Absolutely. Pascal Siakam Stan, Colcato, welcome. OG Burner, welcome. Yeah, first of all, obviously, Messiah is gone. Him and MLSC, whether it be that the reporting is that they mutually are have agreed to part ways, or whether it be the Shams talking to McAfee that he got the text that Messiah is fired. I mean, either way, he's not going to be the president of basketball operations moving forward. I think we should start off by, you know, talking about his 13 years. You could technically say it's more than 13 years because before he was the GM, he actually was part of our team. I think as a scout, I want to say he was some sort of
He
I
was
don't.
assistant GM
He
too,
was assistant GM as
Michelangelo.
well. Yeah,
Yeah,
to Colangelo. So I mean, he's kind of been to and fro from our team. Um, he in terms of his actual tenure as a GM, he does include the highest honor of any GM, which is obviously, executive of the year, but also getting a championship. He also boasts over that time period, I think, a top five record in the NBA at large. Although most of that is boasted by the first 10 years. Hey, it is what it is. He has that record. These are things that he claims, and that he can claim. So yeah, for sure. Your guys' thoughts before we go continue on with his accomplishments.
Hey man, I've got the biggest accomplishment on my hat right here, and the shirt, championship shirt too. I think
Yeah.
the only time I purchased anything in the NBA store, I was all over that day, man. My at the parade, and I guess coming from a perspective, of the three of us, are the only ones that's quote born and raised in Toronto,
Yeah.
and understanding how basketball's been in this city prior to the Raptors, the inauguration of the Raptors, and even the time before Masai. And in some ways, what I hear people talk today about Masai, and in a lot of ways, for a lot of folks, is quite emotional. Don't get
Yeah.
me twisted. I get it to some extent. I do get it. Like, I mean, when he got hired, it was like a breath of fresh air because it was like, I think he was the first executive that actually took the market seriously.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is that you usually had two types of people pretty much that used to come to the Raptors. It was either folks in this case are trying to just looking for a resting spot till their next spot came, or in this case, individuals in this case that really had no business actually being in the spot they were in the first place. They're just kind of like there, or they're just lifers. The dynamic young guy in this case is kind of on everyone's tip of the tongue. Was not usually running to Toronto, and I think to be fair, if I recall when Colangelo got moved on, there's word was that Stern was like, "Yo, man, you need to kind of get this sorted out," and they're helping with the search with this because they want to make things right and get things right. This kind of thing. That's the reason why when I hear people talk about, "Oh, they don't care about Toronto." It's like, no, man,
they do, because it's a bad look.
Yeah, Stern did not want this going down a bad path, and obviously with the history of your team, he did not want to go down that path. Even though I never thought that was ever an issue.
No.
You know, between ownership as well as the fan base, probably you know better than me, but I think it was a bit more of a larger fan base to work from. That includes a lot of folks in this case here, like Buffalo folks. In this case, people don't realize like it's a large swath of Toronto fans just in the southwestern Ontario region. But I think he really gave you know hope, and he wasn't here just to kind of move on type of thing. I think I give him pure kudos for that. I think his mentality of how he thought about the city, I think that's one of the things that will be one of his indelible things that he leaves back. I hope a lot of these young fans and a lot of these fans now they want to talk about, oh, no one wants to come here and stuff like that.
I don't think it has, and it's one of the lessons that I think that people haven't gotten is like he spoke a lot about how like, you know, basically big up yourself, right? You know, like you know, really believe in yourself, and as a city, stop kind of putting yourself down, Toronto.
Yep.
And I still think that like we're still have people that are like, for whatever reason, feel like Toronto is a small mindset. I still don't understand it fully, and I hope that people break out of that, right? And in a way that, you know, the reaction today is a part of that. It's like, no, like I don't think we need to see this as like for the Toronto Raptors that, oh, that's it, that's all she wrote, let's pack it up, right?
Right. Exactly.
You know, part of it is as a president of basketball operations, you run your leg of the race, and eventually you will hand off the baton to someone else. And overall, to like even now, Billy is saying he ran his leg of the race the way that he's supposed to, better than most people would.
Exactly, right. And I think that's the part where, you know, like, you know, just to give folks some perspective, this case here, where everyone says, "Oh my gosh, doom and gloom." I remember when Jerry West left the Lakers, and everyone said, "Oh my gosh, what will we do? How will we ever survive?" And then Mitch Kupchak came, and they won 5 titles. Anyone talk about Jerry West anymore at that point? No. And I'm not saying that's going to happen here, but like there's a lot of capable people out here. You know, I agree this part with Keith Kelly today. There's only 30 jobs essentially in this league for this job. You're going to pay a good set of money. You're going to be all right in this case here. And like I don't think, and there's enough knowledge base now that's been acquired over the last 15 years that, you know, they're not going to be picking a Rob Babcock again. Trust me, I've ignored those days.
So bad. So
right?
I remember those days.
Yeah. Exactly. So the fact that he said that today, I think it was a way to kind of calm some folks down. He said that those CAA is already doing like the search. Those are professionals. They know what they're doing. They do searches all the time for executives, for sports executives. So
I think that Silver has a bigger hand in like what ends up happening in my opinion, because again, there is a vested interest, especially with new TV deals and all that type of stuff coming down, to make sure that all the markets are, especially ahead of new expansion, to make sure that the league at large is in a healthy place.
Well, yeah, and I think just one thing, I'll let your coach get your thoughts, but I think the other thing people have to realize too is Toronto's like the 7th or 8th most valuable franchise in the league.
Yep.
You're not sitting around, you know, this is the reason why in this case the Clippers situation happened. They were trying to get him out for years because the Clippers potential was like, yo, you're killing the potential of what we're doing here. But Toronto the same way is like, no, we can't have Toronto being lousy forever. With all due respect to these other markets. That's not the case with Toronto, folks. It's a top 10, top 8 market in the league, and valuation-wise, they ain't trying to leave money on the table when it comes to the Raptors. So I think he's really been, in that sense, I thought he was very good from an emotional and getting to the soul and getting to that part you mentioned, Kenya, where it's like this insecurity, you know, that Hogtown has with themselves, you know, when it comes to on the bigger landscape of a global landscape. But that's all I had to say about that, Coach.
Yeah, similar to what you said earlier, our host and myself, we did not grow up in Toronto, but we kind of had always have tuned into Toronto from afar. I remember growing up, the Raptors were the reason I got into basketball. Raptors were one of the reasons why I was able to do some little bit of provincial team stuff and college things, make connections with some trainers and coaches and stuff like that. So, if that's not there, I don't get to do some of those things, for example, in basketball. From a macro sense, I'm just talking outside of the Raptors. Masai Ujiri has been very good for basketball in Canada. We're not there today as a basketball powerhouse without the influence of a Masai Ujiri and what he's done with Basketball Without Borders, what he's done to basketball in Canada, the Giants of Africa program. When Kenyon and we had Gannon on earlier in the year, he said, "You know what, Masai's done a lot of great work, especially like in Africa with his Giants of Africa program. Like Masai helped put this basketball nation, I like to say, on the map more so. In the 70s, my high school coach got to see Leo Routens play for Team Canada, who's 16 years old. That was kind of like a big step in Canada basketball at that time. And then it was like Jay Trano playing for the team, and it was Steve Nash. And you've just seen this kind of evolution of the game. And Masai Ujiri, in part, along with Steve Nash and a couple others, just taking basketball to a whole new level in this country. Why you're seeing SGA and Matherin and Dort and Wiggins and all these Canadians that have had success, due in part is to what Masai Ujiri has built with the Raptors in his tenure. And like you said, he's certainly a visionary. There's this emotional aspect to, pick up yourself a little bit on this. Toronto is a big market. You're looking at a top 3-4 market. I'm not talking about basketball, top 3 or 4 market in North America. And, just from living here and being friends with people who like the Leafs, there is this little insecurity. But I think Masai got to the core of this and said, stop. And that Brooklyn series, when he said, F Brooklyn, like, come on, let's pick ourselves up. And eventually a few bounces went our way, and that led to a championship.
Figuratively.
Yeah, literally and figuratively. It led to a championship. And it was not easy. It's always emotionally driven, these situations when you're dealing with people at the end of the day. So Masai Ujiri, at the end of the day, I know we'll get into more of this, but a lot of good has been done because of his vision, what he has meant to basketball in Canada, and what Pelly said today. Like, this guy kind of needs to be, revered for what he has done. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, and he hasn't had a chance to speak yet. He will later on, but so I do want to point out that this is coming out before he has spoken. I think the other thing too is that you want to leave a good impression. He has, but I do think that as we kind of navigate this conversation, it is important to talk about all of the things that led to the firing. Because I've seen some of the comments, for example, and heard some of the conversations where people are just saying that it's just purely money, and I don't think that is the full, honest, raw truth of everything involved. There's a lot of things that go into these decisions, especially at this level. And so, let's get into it. I did talk about his accomplishments. Is there anything that I missed? I do think we should talk about the 2019 championship in just one way, which I think is important. Where, yes, he spoke about this. Not everyone has been in a situation where like the how the thing went down was robbed from you. Some of us have, but not everyone has, and Masai has, and I understand that, and I get that more than most people do actually understand. What I would say is that in general, it's tough. Those moments don't come back ever, right? You're just kind of looking for the next one. So it is unfortunate that that moment wasn't given to him fully. I know that some people say, "Oh, well, he's on the court," and blah, blah. Yes, I get that, but it's the stuff leading up to it, and then you're emotionally it just changes the mood for you because you just went through a bunch of crap, just to I'm not trying to swear or anything like that, but like it really does ruin the mood and brings the mood down, and it just changes your entire thing. You go back in your head and you start thinking over, like, is it me? What did I do? Blah, blah, blah. So I do think that that's something that is. Now, I will say that has nothing to do with the Raptors organization. Like, the Raptors weren't the one that hired that person. It didn't happen in Toronto, et cetera, et cetera. So just from that standpoint, I do want to put that out there. But yeah, I think the next thing is really just to talk about probably I guess why this happened at this point in time, unless there's something that you think that I'm missing.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think, I'll just speak as a black man in this case here. That pained me to see that happen at that moment. And when you mentioned it, I knew exactly what he was getting at. And I will always on that point. We're gonna have some discussions today where I'm gonna definitely be on the opposite side of where some people might think when it comes to Masai. But on that point, I am 1,000% with him on that. The day I die, I'll put that out there straight.
Yeah. There's a lot of, and even now, just again, the way that people have navigated this and they've kind of laughed at that. I think that that's you're doing a disservice to the full telling. Even if you are, whether you're a detractor or you are pro, whatever, you have to tell that part of the story in the right way. If you are joining us late, well, welcome everyone. Definitely go back to the first part. So if you're at this, you're like, well, why are you starting here? Go back to the first part. This isn't the initial part of the conversation. Check that out later if you want. But yeah, we're going to just keep rolling through. The leading up to the championship, I guess we should talk about. There was a lot of tension in the air actually before the Kawhi deal. I remember DeMar DeRozan asking for a lot of help. Literally saying we're not good enough. We don't have LeBron, right? Lowry, Casey, all of them asking for a lot of help and not getting it, frankly, except for Jared Sullinger was one, Damari Carroll, so on and so forth, and a lot of moves that really didn't work out well that we actually had to trade picks to get out of. So this is something that I think a lot of people forget. Now, obviously, the trade is the trade. And that went down. That's a ballsy move. It's a good move. It's the right move, clearly, if you're going to go over the top. If you say that we're about winning, that's the type of move that you got to make. He made that move. And, of course, the championship went. We just talked about the bounces and all that. Since the championship, I think we will remove the COVID year because that is just – and I don't think that played a role. Obviously, that does something to the overall, I guess, circumstances, but I don't think that is like the be all end all. I think that factored in very little. And I think that there's an understanding that the league was just in a tough place at large. People forget, but the league was borrowing money from the players or put some sort of money in escrow away for the players to help fund things and whatnot. So it was just a tough place for society at large. But since then, there has been a lack of a direction and a lack of a commitment. And so I know people say, oh, it's only because Larry Tannenbaum left. Yes, that does factor in. Yes, there is an Ed Rogers portion of it. But there's also when you kind of look at a 10,000-foot lens, if his name was not Masai Ujiri and something else, or hey, take out the championship for a second, has he done a good job over, again, taking out the past 5 years? And most would say the job has not been great. It has been quite tumultuous. Every single year has probably felt like the most important impending doom level of year in franchise history. And, the list goes on. I know that Beyond will probably get into certain more micro level details that I think are important. But yeah, if you look at the past 5 years, it has not been the best in terms of asset management. And even just from the standpoint, people forget, and by the way, Blackhawk, welcome. But again, go back to the original part of the video if you want to see that, because we did start off with praising Masai. At the end of the day, I think the past 5 years has not been good. Beyond, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a tale of two cities, right? When it's all said and done, He got the contract for $15 million because of what he'd done the previous 5 years or 6 years or 7 years. Well deserved. At the time, we were upset why we messing around with this. So for the Ed Rogers comments in this case here, hey, you know me, I got no love for Ed Rogers. I've done spaces about how they screwed up the WNBA thing just one example. Yep. So I got no love for Ed Rogers.
There.
Yeah, I got my own theories with that. But trying to.
And I think that's actually a reason why Tannenbaum actually left.
Right, exactly. Right. People don't realize that. And as far as that goes, I mean, everyone's saying, well, Tannenbaum leaving and the Rogers coming in. When it's all said and done, no one wants to put the responsibility on what you've done. He's had 5 years in this case here to do what you had to do. When it's all said and done, it's about what have you done as your team winning and producing. I put a tweet out today just to give the quick Cole's notes for the kids at home to know what it is. In this case, brief notes. I just said, here's what's happened the last 5 years. Losing record. 3 straight missing the playoffs. Mismanagement of assets. Mismanagement of trades. Mismanagement of free agents. Poor relationships in this case with players and with agents. Frustration in this case, dealing with your peers in this case when it comes to trying to make trades. That has also come up. Just saw a Yahoo article I gave my man Paul in this case early today from Yahoo Sports talking about that just last year. We heard Jake Fisher mentioning that before last year's draft. At some point, you essentially you start wearing out your welcome. And it was fascinating to watch just as a contrast. Atlanta, Landry Fields got taken out, pretty much about 2 months ago now, 6 weeks ago. And Atlanta has been a whirling dervish in the last 6 weeks of making moves and put themselves in a position that if you had to look at their roster right now, they're probably a top 6 team in the East. My point to everyone here is hearing the sound of my voice is that you can make moves if you have the gumption, you have the stomach for it. And they all don't have to be home runs. I think the problem I had with Masai in this case, the biggest thing I had a problem with Masai in the last 5 years, and I think in some ways he got addicted on his own supply when it came to the Kawhi trade, and to some extent the Gasol trade, and the Ibaka trade. Those are all 3 big-time players, and he hit home runs on all 3. And I think he got in this mindset where it's like, that's the only way we could build a winning team. Instead of trying to get singles and doubles, and then wait to see if you get the opportunity to get a good, get a 3-0 pitch. But no, he in this case here, he would not go down that route. And I think that's the part where it's the most frustrating. We sat down here in Tampa. We're sitting here after you didn't want to sign back up Ibaka and Gasol because you're trying to get Giannis. Fine, you want to clear the cap space for Giannis, so be it. But you better have a plan B if you can't get Giannis. We end up a few weeks before the season, we get Aaron Baines.
Yeah, and I'm sure Coach is going to chime in, but that's a good point where people think that, Aaron Baines only came to us because we were in Tampa. No, Aaron Baines came to you because you waited in free agency to go sign someone, trying to wait for Giannis, and that's who was left over.
Like there's things like that where you're sitting here shaking your head. I mean, don't even start me, but the most egregious one of them all, and you kind of brought the other day, and I've heard others bring it up today. The fact in this case that if you told me you gave up 4 draft picks and the names Jakob Poeltl and Thad Young are what you're acquiring in God's name in 2023 or 2024, I have to ask you, like, what the hell's wrong with you? 4 draft picks went by the wayside for Thad Young. Not Thad Young in his prime in Chicago. Thad Young in like 2023 or whatever it is, and Jakob Poeltl. Are you kidding me?
And it still made your bench better, which tells you the state of the bench. The majority of the people that were on the bench 5 years ago are now out of the NBA.
Which is why I said at the time when we're on Spaces, they got these folks here carping, Nick Nurse won't play the bench. I said, what bench?
What bench?
I said at the time. I said it then. I said at the time, all them dudes, I said probably in 2 years' time, not one of these guys will be in the NBA. And what has happened since then? The majority of them are in the NBA, and the other ones are catching splinters beside their coach.
Someone brought up the Norm trade in the chat.
Well, there's another
one. And that's the thing. And I want to point this out because people like to bring up the money when it's convenient. If it was convenient and if it's all about money, then why did we pay Gary Trent the same money that Norm made anyways? I like it, holding on and trying to help out Lowry and stuff like that. You know, the Norm trade you say was fine, or some people will say that it's fine. No, it wasn't fine because it was a bad assessment of what we were going to do, and it was a
Played away
bad
the better
assessment of
player.
talent.
Yes,
Like we traded away the better player. We moved for a guy and then paid him the same money, and then
money.
but on under shorter period of time, and it was a what was it, a 2+1? So it's like you have a short period of time to flip that asset around because you're never committing to the guy.
And
So
that's
at
the
some,
biggest issue.
like
That's the
it's
type.
like
Yeah,
you're never as my mom would say, blank or get off the potty. If you're
exactly.
always doing that sort of thing, then there's a problem there, that will persist, and that is, I think, the root and the crux of the issue. Yes, I agree. There are things that are here. Yes, besides part of that, in terms of the facilities and whatnot, I think the person that actually deserves a lot of credit that people don't give a lot of credit to is Tim Lywicki, because
Mm-hmm.
he is the one that really invested in all the different teams, telling Ed Rogers, hey, guess what? The hockey is and actually soccer and basketball are on the rise.
That's
And
what
a lot of
he said.
people don't realize the
No,
importance of that. We went through a lot of brain drain from the championship onwards, and we never really fulfilled the developmental staff of our admin crew in
and
many ways.
I think that your get off the pot phrase is really sums it up because Masai seems to be in a world where he thinks it's like, where it's like this thing where we just have time to kind of review. I always tease and say they're doing more white papers at the Raptors office, right? This world that we're living in now, whatever type of industry you're in, you don't have time to be sitting around here mulling over and stroking your beard to figure out what's going on. And then prove my point in this case. I heard someone brought Boston today. Boston's a bad example. I think they're trying to say it in support of Masai. No, Boston's not a good example. You know why? Because Boston realized, what? Once their star player went down, he's going to be gone for the entire season. What did Boston do? Man, switch directions immediately. We are not hanging around here doing this again. We're going to eat the year. You're gone, Holiday. You're gone, Porzingis. Derek White, come on down. You might be next on the list. We are clearing house, and we'll restock in 2027. In 2026 or 2027. That's what a team does when they have a direction and they know what they're about. Not fooling around with 1 foot. Well, we might go in the playoffs on 1 foot. We're kind of rebuilding when you're really not. When you're not fooling anybody, at least you're fooling some of these folks. You're never rebuilding, and I think that's the reason why I use the phrase. There's a stink or a mustiness. It's almost like cleaning a house with a spring cleaning. It required that, and I think this is the time where it requires this because you got some point give us a direction of what you're doing. You can't be sitting here 1 foot in 1 foot in each side, and you're going nowhere, just spinning around like this.
Yeah.
And that's the frustration I was having. It's like, dude, just pick a place. I'd rather you just go for Giannis and get every vet possible, and we try to win that way, and it falls short. At least we have a direction, or we get kids playing. But to be in this kind of purgatory is the worst thing for a sports fan, man. But Coach, man, what's your thoughts?
Well, just for the audience who's just coming in, we're talking about, well, how did we get here right now? And I'm seeing just some of the comments. Trading Kyle Lowry for Goran Dragic, who didn't want to be here, and Precious Achiuwa, that's why we had to part with that first-round pick to get Thad Young, and then we traded back about 10 spots. Now, might we have picked Koloko regardless? Maybe, quite honestly. And then Koloko, of course, you get the blood clots after year one. Not much you can do about that.
But even Koloko, they messed up on Coach.
Yeah, because once he got better, and then they got rid of him anyway. Yeah, like they cut him. So there was that aspect. And I think one of the biggest aspects of how we head down this path was their inability to decide on what to do with Fred and OG Pascal. Those were the biggest things right now. They got to a point in that 2022 season, I believe, it's almost the trade deadline. You have this 7'5" generational talent in France, and you have some pretty big odds to get him at that time. And they elected to go and trade a first-round pick, go get Jakob Poeltl, and not do anything with Fred. Fred walks for free, and you don't replace him with anything. You put Siakam in a bunch of trade rumors to a point where he basically had almost no value left, And then you got this horrible Bruce Brown deal. People can say it led to Ingram. That's lucky that Ingram was available at that time. Usually those type of talents aren't quite available. Luckily, he was hurt a lot. But the picks they also got back in return, they were all going to be late first-round picks at the same time. Jacoby was probably going to be the best one at 19. But then we got to the OG trade. It was OG was like 3 months left. If they had kept him after the deadline, that was the best deal that they got for Quickly and RJ and what turned into Jonathan Mobo. So I think the inability to pick a direction earlier with that, either you go the draft route or you get rid of some of these guys before, is what kind of helped lead to where we're at today, quite honestly. And some front offices, that can be a tough decision to make, but I do think that was part of this downfall, why we're here today a little bit, the inability to make some of those tough decisions at that time, not to go at it early. They were kind of late to the game for a lot of this stuff. And it's quite difficult. And they handed the reins to a very young player in Scotty. We're here, we're still here today without really a direction moving forward. I don't know what direction that it looks like. It's just, we were told it's a rebuild, but this was never to me a rebuild. This was like a retool. If this was a commit to a rebuild, every team in the NBA always tries to acquire draft picks, get off salary. We added salary. We were an expensive laundry team winning 30 games, and you're right at the cap. Not many teams do that. Oklahoma City did not do that, quite honestly. A lot of these teams who tend to rebuild, not to say that it's always successful, you're always guaranteed when you rebuild to have success, because there's so many elements that do go into that. But how we did this retool, we're still left with many questions about the direction of this team.
Kenyon has always brought something where it's like the Raptors. I'll just say the Raptors, but I mean, Masai was the head of the snake, kind of. Where we try to do, they end up doing this Daredevil, Evil Knievel for you older folks, in this case, a different vintage, where we try to do all these different things that make life harder for ourselves. And it crossed my mind when I heard Coach talking just now, where it's like, it's interesting. The two guys that wanted to stay here was Pascal and Norm. And it almost like Masai almost feels affronted, like it's a form of weakness that they wanted to come. And the guys he kept chasing, the guys kept on rebuffing him. We sat down there 2 years before OG said, OG's not coming back, guys. Make the trade with Brooklyn. No, you didn't want to listen to his precious OG he had to have. Fred was not coming back. We already knew that Fred was never coming back. He's going to get paid. That's what he was. The man has a label name bet on himself. What do you think he's going to do in free agency? Okay, come on, guys. But somehow he almost seems more drawn to a player that seems to want to rebuff him than the guys in this case that say, I want to stay here and play here. It's a weird dynamic, but I find it fascinating. It's like, I don't get it, but so be it. Like, because even if you say, okay, you kept the two guys, Norm and Pascal. Yeah. You probably been pretty better shape right now today with what happened now than what ended up happening.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. I think that there's a few other things. I'm seeing some of the comments just to clean these points up. I think number one, first of all, buck stops with Masai. He is the deciding factor in a lot of these basketball decisions. Actually, for quite a number of years, after the Air Canada guy, I forget his name, sorry, but he had a boss that was the former head of the Air Canada, and then that guy left for a couple of years, at least 3 years, and he had no boss.
Yeah, but
so at some point, it was just like him reporting basically around the time we got the last thing. He was.
But even the boss he had pretty much just wrote the checks. Like he didn't really get involved.
Yeah, he was. It was just like the dude at the time was just like pure. Like this is what the ticket sales are.
Right. He's hardcore sales.
But I think there's a few things just to kind of get through, because we got to clean up some of the discussion that is nonsense. The first thing, I'm going to put some of these comments actually on the screen because I think it's important to put these things. Saying that Siakam sabotaged his value is, I think, utter nonsense. And I do think that it's important to kind of talk this and kind of button this up and get it out right away. Number one, it is not his job to play GM. The GM is the GM. That's number one. Number two, Masai Ujiri ghosted him. He agreed. He said that he ghosted him and he apologized for it.
He did.
right? That does not, and also having your star player out there, if you don't feel like he's the star, that's cool. But having any sort of player out there always flapping in the wind, in the trade winds, does not help their value. It's like Miles Turner, right? For the longest time, it's like if anyone wants to take Miles Turner, come one, come all. At some point, it can at times mess with people's heads. I mean, I talked to someone the other day, and they were talking. The other factor too is that like people grieve differently. The fact is that like that dude put a lot of things on the line for the championship. The next year, yes, had the bubble. I've talked about that on my channel before. I've talked about the fact that he couldn't get out in COVID. People forget that Chris Boucher went to the grocery store, got cussed out for going to the grocery store without a mask. People were. I had a content creator, and I will not say their name, but they suggested that he should have broke protocol if he loved basketball. So to like sully this dude's name and say that he played selfish when he did all that, and people were calling him gorilla and get out and a GoFundMe to basically deport him. Mm, I
Yeah.
won't say choice words, but I don't have time for that nonsense.
Yeah, like this idea that players should just acquiesce to management. There's something
And
called free
frankly,
agency for a reason.
no, but frankly, here's the other thing. If because other teams went and did the same thing, like DeJounte Murray, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
DeJounte Murray was an expiring. They upped him in the summer, and guess what? They traded him during the year.
Well, the classic example in this case is always, and it involves my team, in this case, the Pistons, where Blake Griffin, in this case, got the big treatment from the Clippers,
Yeah.
saying he's one of the greatest African Americans beside, Mandela, and beside, with Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Obama and this and that. And 6 months later, he's in a cold day in Detroit.
Absolutely. And in terms of Bobby, I haven't gotten to the Bobby part yet, but yes,
we'll
if it was me, just to jump to that, I'm not. We're gonna get to that. But sorry, Coach. I'll just say this: like, if it was up to me, I would go like this to the whole front office. Like,
well, I'm gonna get to that in a second.
Like, don't worry, folks. We'll get to it. But yeah, so like I think that's something that's really important. And I think that there's a lot of things that players in general. I mean, I just see some of the nasty things, just the way that people talk about the players. Mm-hmm. I'm not just talking about Siakam. I'm even talking about current players and stuff like that. And that's why I say sometimes I'm like, I want this player traded for his sake, because why would I want to be in a place that I'm not liked? Now, in terms of the Boston Celtics or other teams making decisions, they make teams decisions. But this goes back to my point: when there's an ownership change, all bets are off. All bets are off.
Oh, yep.
Coach, you were going to say.
I heard Leo Routens today on TSN. He made an interesting point. Okay, I'm going to get to it.
Leo coming hot.
So the point that I heard from Leo was, he said, with all this Pascal and Fred and OG talk, which led to Scotty, and he was clear, and I'm going to be clear too. I'm not going at Scotty on this one. He said there's not many franchises in the history of the basketball who put the franchise tag on someone who's not a scorer, doesn't even average over 20 a game. Not many franchises in basketball have ever done that. We have. So it's hard to be a franchise guy and be that successful, be in contention if you are not a scorer. Now, could you surround that guy with the right pieces? Sure, I guess you can, but this organization hasn't. That's an issue, right? So this is kind of part of this dynamic as it's playing out right now. And what we've been kind of talking about is the lack of direction. Where are you going? Even this week, I still don't get where you're going. Forget the Masai stuff for a second. I still don't know where you're going, by the way. But this is why we're ending up here. There's a lot of confusion. Team building is a little different.
Yeah. I mean, if you're saying that on one hand, literally like we're doing a 2 to 3 year rebuild and we really value the next 2 years worth of picks, and then you're trying to trade the pick for Sabonis, that's not a good look, and that doesn't really make a lot of sense. And just sorry, if I could just go back one more second, just in terms of the way that they played, which I think again goes a lot on that. You got to remember the way that teams play. We saw this even in terms of the finals, is dictated a lot by coaching. Now, there's something that you guys haven't brought up. as I talk about coaching, the coaching search, how long that took.
Was it Carmen San Diego search?
Most teams when we fired Nick Nurse had been in the playoffs, out of the playoffs, hired a coach before we even started getting down to who's actually going to be part of the coaching search. I think that's tough. That's not a good look. And then to end up with Darko Rojakovic, if you like Darko, good for you. But going beyond the fact that it's Darko, when his first comments are saying things like Precious Achua as a hub, or even worse, he's bringing in, because again, you're the one that hired him, he's bringing in a guy that is now having been implicated in a lawsuit with the Knicks because you hired this guy and he ended up stealing, trade secrets essentially from Synergy. I know some people poo-poo it and say, oh, it's just Synergy, but that is not a good look. And that is your guy that you just hired. And that was within a couple weeks of you hiring the guy. Not to mention, you also signed players, right? You signed players because Darko is bringing in players and recruiting players who are now stuck in Canada because of a RICO case, because they literally bet on themselves. That does not make anyone in the front office look good either. So if you're trying to have all that on your more recent resume, on your updated CV, and you're trying to negotiate an extension, that's not really easy. Like I'm just being flat out there. Like whether or not, Steve Jobs was fired from his own damn company that he built.
Exactly. People don't understand.
Yeah.
Sorry, Coach.
No. And this, I'm looking at Will's comment here. The Siakam comment a week ago, I'm just taking a guess Keith Pelly might have been paying attention to that a little bit. Because it didn't look good with a former player, guy who just won Eastern Conference Finals MVP, and he's one game away, and he says, you know what? I lost my joy for playing basketball until I came to Indiana. Everyone knows where he was at. They even came out today, a working environment in Toronto. I'm not going to go that far with it. It was so destructive. But we all know what it was. Like, Kenyon brought it up about the trade rumors that he was in. The new coach made him a spacer on the floor without really recognizing his game, and mentioned that he did not know his game.
And people call him selfish and all this type of stuff. Fred was the one that was jacking up shots. And yet, what do you see? Nick Nurse putting his hands on a player.
Yeah, he had
nothing from the organization.
An altercation with the coach, the racism from some people in this fan base. Like, no wonder the guy was in a dark space here. And he came through all of that. I'm not talking so much the last year that he was here, but still being an all-star, still being an all-NBA player, still playing 40 minutes a night, still kicking and scratching to take that team that Nick Nurse coached, who was begging for them, the front office, to go and do something. Please get me a couple of guys to play on the bench, to basically a 500 record that year. I've told you guys, Nick Nurse coached a magnificent. How he did that coaching job was unbelievable. To get with not one guy under 6 foot or over 6'9" to a playoff spot. That's unbelievable.
And yet it was still his time to go too, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
It happens.
On the Siakam front, I don't think people appreciate how good Siakam is when you go back and look at that 48-win team and go look at that roster.
Yeah.
And go look at the circumstances of that roster, because Van Vliet didn't play for after the All-Star break. He almost didn't even play for the rest of that All-Star break.
OG was in and out.
He was in and out. So for the most part, he's out there playing with
Siakam, a rookie Barnes, and
Siakam, Scotty.
Rookie Barnes, Thad Young, Precious Achua, GTJ, and throwing wherever, Chris Boucher and wherever.
Insert random bench person that will randomly step up occasionally.
6 dudes or 7 dudes, and he's playing 40 minutes a night, and they drag that team to 48 wins. That's a miracle.
That's a miracle. Yeah.
And GTJ going crazy for like a month.
Right.
Yeah.
So that roster.
Yeah, Matt Thomas, exactly.
Yeah, the whole Siakam situation here, like it was not a good look for this front office, quite honestly. It just the whole saga for the 2.5 years that it was. And this is part, I think, of what we just saw today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I think just to bring the energy back around. Obviously, yeah, like these are the things that kind of led up to it. Um, Obviously, we talked about the good already. We also talked about the bad. I know. I'm sure. As soon as we talk about the bad, we lose some people. As soon as we talk about the good, we
I
lose some
don't
people.
care, man. Some
But
people show
hey,
some
we
people.
have to cover. Well, no, this is what I'm saying. Is we have to cover. We have to cover the good, the bad, and the ugly. Sometimes we have to give a full reading of things. This is, you know, I think it's important. It's not about like what the channel name or anything. Like, I I value my integrity, and I value these guys' integrity. And like, I'm not here to lie to you. I'm here to say like this is the situation that you can make your own qualms or whatever, but and there is a part of me that I'm sad that it went this way, but also everything comes to an end. No one has a job forever unless you have like I don't know some sort of technology that we don't have. And that no, like there's always that's just the way that these
You
things go.
know, I tell you guys, I like to walk and chew gum at the same time. For Masai Ujiri did more good here than not good. I can say that. I think I can.
Yeah,
That's how I feel
I
anyway. He
agree.
said more good than bad.
100%.
But I don't think you're being honest if you're not covering some of these things of the last 3 or 4 years. You're just
If
in denial.
Coach, if you gave a litany of all the things we discussed, and we even get to all the other stuff, to be honest with you, there's a whole heap more we could talk about. But
Yes,
we've really been kind of kind in this case. There's a whole other stuff. But to your point, if we get a whole litany of that, and you didn't, to Kenya's point, you didn't put any name on that and say, "Yo, 5 years this, you think this guy you should get re-signed?" No one in their right mind would say so.
No, and that's really it. So, I know that some people don't like the way that he was, I guess, let go or whatever today, and you know what? Sure. I mean, I don't really have a big strong opinion one way or another on that. I guess they could have let him speak first or whatever. But I think that a lot of people, when he has said at least twice recently that like with or without me, y'all are going to be good. It's like what Nurse is talking about greener pastures and like being put out to pasture type of a thing. So at some point, it's like you got to read the room and got to have some sort of inkling of what's going on. But I know that these things always hit people differently, and it's tough.
But you know what? You're being really kind today, Kenyon, man.
I always try to.
You're a good person.
I get flack, but I really try to be fair.
I ain't gonna be that kind today. I am not being that kind today because when we say certain things and we get hell from it, be it from the comments or be it in the comments later on or even on the spaces, we are not saying these things in this case because we're rooting with pom-poms to say so. We're seeing it because we're reading the tea. So
I saw some people say that we put it out in the air and we've always been praying for Masai. It's like I'm not praying for I want my basketball team to do well.
But it's also your own life experiences. If you're working,
I've been through things that people don't understand.
You see things that even if you're a sports fan, you see things that you don't know. When you hear that your president of basketball operations a year out from a contract, and 3 weeks before the draft, all of a sudden you hear a word, he's talking to Atlanta. What am I supposed to say about that, guys? If we've been trying to tell you, that's not something here. It's like, I don't need to be Sherlock Holmes to figure that out. And yet some of you act like put your head in the sand like an ostrich. Oh, no. Like, no, guys, be more alert, be more aware that it's sitting right there. So when I say these things, and it's like, it's like, oh, you're going after him. No, I'm looking at the tea leaves. I'm seeing what his record is, and it doesn't look good for him. So like, the reason why, so I'm not going to let this slide tonight, and we're just always like, we're all good. No. Because what it is tonight, man.
And I want to say this, Brandon, I don't think it's about, from this perspective, again, if you've had the same type of years as he's had, then no. Simple. As a GM, your job is to say, I take this from Coach. So anyone, you go follow Coach for this type of advice, right? Winning or hope, right?
Mm-hmm.
Coach always says, a GM, you sell winning or you sell hope. You can't sell both at the same time.
And they tried to.
And they tried to sell both at the same time. So they tried to say, hey, we're selling you hope. We're selling you for the future. We're selling you for a rebuild. And then 6 months later, it's like you get Brandon Ingram. The second that you bring in Brandon Ingram. You've actually now, without you even saying anything, and then also on top of that, Bobby Webster saying, well, our star player, he ain't like to shoot. So this guy likes to shoot, but he liked to pass. That tells you everything that you need to know. Okay,
I
fine.
know
Scotty
Bobby
ain't
got
the number one guy. This dude's the number one guy. This guy is being paid to do what Scotty ain't want to do, or maybe that he is not able to do at this particular time.
I tell you, we'll get to Bobby in a second, but he got to
I
step
will
up
get to
his
Bobby in a
game.
second.
Yeah, he got to step up his game if he's going to be the face of this for the executive side. Those
Yeah,
little
even for a couple of months.
Let's just comments ain't gonna cut it no more, man.
No. But yeah, and then that's the thing. Like, if you're gonna go in that type of, be part of that type of situation, you kind of have to. Like, the easiest thing for a GM actually is to be in a rebuild, because then you have an excuse to be bad.
That's how Presti was able to get away with it, because he announced that we're
Yes.
rebuilding. He committed to it. I got to say, he made the trade for Shea, and we saw all these picks, and he's still reaping with the picks today. Now, there's more. I get it. There's more to his situation than what most executives would get, quite honestly. But he did commit to it, I think, back in 2020 or 2021, whatever it was. And now again, not everyone gets to rebuild and win a championship. It doesn't always work that way. We took a path where we actually didn't rebuild to win a championship.
Well, and this is a good point. They did try to do the Warriors thing, but again, we didn't have Steph Curry, and even then, even for example, this year, it's like unless you have Steph Curry and you're telling him to sit down, you should be able to tell basically almost any player, you know what, you got to sit down.
Well,
we'll get to that another day.
We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah. In terms of that, is there anything else that we want to cover before we get into what is next and what does the future look like? Because I think a lot of people are talking about potential candidates, or even in the chat, people have talked about Bobby. I do want to get to that side of things, because I think people think that, if they keep on Bobby, that I have nothing to say. Is there, before I continue, is there anything?
Yeah.
I
think we get into what's next.
Okay.
Yeah,
Bobby, let's talk about Bobby first. So right now, Bobby is literally the last man standing in the castle at the top, I guess. I don't know. The way that I read it is a little bit different. I think people took they took Pelly's words as, gospel, where it's like, oh, they're suddenly like, they're gonna like, ask Bobby. I mean, they were directly asked about Bobby, to be fair, because he didn't really bring up Bobby until he's directly asked about Bobby. But like, he was asked about, would Bobby essentially be, considered as a job, and they said yes, he will be considered for the job. Now, if he's considered for the job, I don't know how I feel about that, because he has also been the quote unquote the capologist. And again, if people are going to say, oh, it's all about being cheap and all this type of stuff, yeah, I mean, like, how are you cheap when you're one of the highest payrolls in the NBA? I mean, Effie brought up, the Boston paying 300, we're paying $200 million. Almost, like 183 or whatever, for a team that is a 30-win team. So I mean, at some point, like, the capologist needs to like be looked at. I was a little bit disappointed with Kelly or Pelly or whatever the hell his name is with that, because I was like, I wouldn't be touting this guy's cap stuff, because he hasn't like, are we sure that he actually did what he did, or is he someone that just put it on LinkedIn? Like, there might be some sort of background information that you might need to take a look at, because I've been kind of disappointed from that standpoint. But I also think that there's an aspect of this where people are, I know that there were over 300 million in salary. It was actually 500, but that's beyond the point. I think just focusing on us right now, because we do actually own our own infrastructure, unlike Boston currently. People stopped going to games. You had people out here, again, we're not here to name names or whatever, or make plugs when they're not necessarily deserved. You had people that barbecue stuff all the time about the Raptors and give hot takes, we'll say, that went on vacation near the end of the season and stopped watching. At that point, the product's bad. You had ticket sales down throughout the season. It was not good. And at the end of the day, you got to sell a product. Now, maybe Bobby can figure that out. We'll see. But I think to kind of bring it full circle, I really do think that they're going to give a comprehensive look, even though Bobby is re-upped and everyone's good. that I don't think that necessarily means that his job is safe. I don't know how long his extension is. I don't.
Yeah.
Will's right. They were giving away tickets last season as if it was the inaugural
But
season.
this about fans not going to games, I know you really mean it this year, but this has been something that's been a trend for a couple of years now. And I had a conversation with someone who follows the Raptors, and I think is a little producing for them. And he said Vision 6-9 was not aesthetically pleasing. It wasn't. It was a really tough watch with the way that they did it, with the non-shooting, clunky fit, guys that just, it was really difficult to watch, quite honestly. I'm talking about in the Nick Nurse era, that last year and a half, and a little bit into Darko's era as well. I'm like, you know what? This is a really tough watch at times. So if I'm a fan going to a game and you're looking for excitement on the level of like a Golden State or a Cleveland or a Boston or something like that, you weren't even near that. And you're paying all that money to see, not the prettiest basketball out there. Let's just put it that way. So this has been building for a few years, in my opinion.
Yeah. Beyond your thoughts.
I think that's the part that people don't seem to understand too. As a president of basketball operations, you are dealing with the on-court product, of course, but you're also dealing with the off-court product as well too. Jersey sales are down, NBA, TV ratings are down. Don't forget the folks that own this actually own a TV station. They see them ratings too, and they're sitting there like, "What the heck?" Right? And as like Wiki said years ago, the golden goose is the Raptors. All right, don't let anyone fool you. It isn't the Maple Leafs. Obviously, it's not TFC. It's the Raptors. That's the brand in this case that could go globally. That's playing in China. That's the one. It's not the Leafs. So when you start messing around with that money, folks are gonna start looking around saying, "What the hell are we doing?" And I think what the thing going back to Bobby, I'll say my full thing later on, but I would just like to know. I think the thing that we're gonna find out hopefully very soon is like how much of these decisions were Bobby decisions and how many were actually Masai decisions. Because we're gonna find out real soon. And I think we'll find out if he's the capologist as he says he is. He's gonna have to make some tough decisions about contracts, and so perhaps moving off of money. So we'll find out real soon. So we'll see if they act a little bit like how Atlanta's front office did when their leader got canned, and just started going into like, "Yo, we're in wheel and dealing mode," or we're gonna find out if they can continue to be like stand pat, and there's gonna be like, "Okay, we're just gonna be staying scared, and hopefully they don't notice anything. We get to keep our jobs." We're gonna find out real soon in the next 3 months. Free agency is a few days away.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm the type. When I did not feel they did the best job at surrounding players, the right type of players around Siakam. We get to see that in Indiana. We see what happens, right? I'll be fair to Scotty on this too. I don't think they've done that with him either. I know it's a bit more complicated than that, but if I commit to a guy who's got the franchise tag, I think my front office staff and scout should look to try to put in some degree the right pieces around that fit around that player, at least to try to see. I'm taking away motivations and all that. I'm taking all that out of there for a second. Bringing in the right skill sets and the right talent in order to do that. That's just me. And that's why I would have fired everybody today.
I agree.
Not just Masai.
So,
and I'm not one to say that. But after what I've seen the last few years, even dating back to Siakam.
Well, let's get into this a little bit since we're already here, man. We might as well go all the way with it.
Can I just say GM salary just because it came up? So
Sure.
RC Buford makes $10 million a year, but I mean, it is the Spurs. He has over 6 rings. Pat Riley, multiple rings on multiple teams, $11 million a year. Bob Myers was making $8 million, but again, multiple rings. The rings do help.
I think Masai was like the top one, if not like the second most highest paid.
I'm getting to him. Yeah. So he would be just below apparently David Griffin when he left. I think he took a pay cut when he went to New Orleans. But when he was,
I'm right, man. She
Yeah,
ain't
but
been
what?
that
But
one
yes,
right now.
but before he was on New Orleans, when he was on the Cavs with LeBron and stuff like that, he was making 5.8. So it's up there as like in terms of all time, all time. I don't know about all the GM salaries right now, but in terms of all time, that's sixth all time in terms of per year salary. Because I think I was wrong. I thought it was 15 per year. It's about between 5 to 10 per year. So he's been a well paid GM for sure. But I don't think it's all about just salary here from like a GM
No.
standpoint. Like
You think
if you're going to
quickly,
pay someone top dollar, you're expecting a performance there.
wait,
So yeah,
exactly. You're paying quickly 185. You think we're losing sleep about 5 million for Masai? Like seriously. Like, come on, folks. You gotta sit down and watch a guy sitting on the bench for about 3/4 of the season.
we
And
also just paid
185 million.
Brandon Ingram like $40 million
40
without
million.
seeing him,
And we pray he
and
plays
whatever the heck his salary was this year, which is probably in the 30s, to not play basketball.
right.
I'm pretty sure that it's not the salary. It's the fact that people aren't going to games and stuff like that.
You know, like I think to your point about the whole thing, I agree with you, Coach. But I think that will happen. I think there's almost a bit, you know how it is, especially if you've worked in the corporate world. There's a certain type of like, I guess a org chart protocol that has to happen, right? So in this case here, Pelly's not going to sweep everyone at one time. He's going to get the guy in here that it will be doing the sweeping out. So when that new basketball president of basketball operations comes in, he's going to bring in his guys. And when he brings in his guys, sorry, Bobby, it's been fun. Sorry, Darko, it's been fun. But they're going to be out the door.
Yeah, they just, and I'm only saying this a little bit in the vacuum. They failed Siakam, and they're kind of failing Scotty. And I'm saying this as they have the franchise tag. And part of them failing Scotty was Wednesday night. I'll just say it. I wasn't a fan of the draft pick. You're not helping him. Bringing in someone who is a light version of him. I like the player. I won't get into too much more than that, but you're not helping him and what this team needs.
Now,
I'll leave it at that.
There is an element of this that we haven't touched on, which is something that is important. Now, whether fair or not, there is the element. Masai, yes, has done so many humanitarian things for the city, for the continent of Africa, all of these amazing things. And some of these things relate back to basketball in terms of the ancillary aspects of how it kind of builds up to allow you to tap into certain markets like the African market for development, and those things shouldn't be taken away. But if you're paying someone top dollar and you're seeing them not do, as they say, keep the main thing, and then suddenly you're hearing you're seeing like, wait a minute, because again, say Keith Pelly's been looking. If I'm Keith Pelly and I'm looking at what I'm seeing, right, and suddenly I'm seeing why, because he's a TV guy, my team is not in the playoffs, right? I've heard reports of, this guy having to fly down to, basically to fly down to go talk to the star player, and then he admits it, by the way, because Messiah did admit that, and then on top of that, Messiah himself said, essentially, we were too distracted, and we and then all of a sudden, Messiah and Bobby are now in the tunnel all the time instead of not being in the tunnel, and they're traveling with road games. That is telling you that they were too distracted.
Yeah.
I mean, they're saying it. I'm taking his words.
So taking pictures with Harry and Meghan in Nigeria, that might be a distraction.
Might be. I mean, it's cool.
It's cool, I understand, but the free agency market, you see your president of basketball operations opening up a new court, in this case in Nigeria. Yeah, I'm just saying. I mean, I've got no issue with it. I always say, hey, man, if you take care, I always say it this way: if you've done your homework, you go out and play, knock yourselves out. If you haven't done your homework, sorry, you can't go out and play with your friends. That's the way I look at it, man. I'm old school with that. Call me old school West Indian. That's how I see it. So like once your homework is done, you do what you gotta do.
Yeah, you can't be Nick Nurse with your own NN hat when you're and talking and going on on a TV show or Binky Blinder or whatever the hell else.
Murdoch Mysteries, man.
Yeah, with and doing that when you haven't done your work. That goes on Nick Nurse as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, who funds his nonprofit? I don't know, man. I don't know.
We're doing an investigation.
Ask an accountant. It's none of my business.
I'll say, yeah. So, like, I think, yeah, going back to what's next, I see
Yeah.
some people in the comments about, what happened. I think Brandon had an interesting way of phrasing it, but maybe
Is it the
more
top
often.
dog from CAA?
Yeah. They put that
So
one.
Bob Myers is a CAA client, but yeah, like I guess just to kind of get Bobby out of the way, do you think that it is like Bobby?
I hope not. I
Yeah.
really
I hope
hope
not either.
I don't. I am concerned about Bobby's tenure as well too, and that comment he made the other night after the draft, I was like, really, dude? Like you are part of the team. You can't just put that as like, oh, that's Darko. Throw the coach in the bus. That was classic. That was that. All I said at the time. That was like Homer Simpson stepping back in the brush. Not me. I ain't make this pick, guys.
I like to inject a new voice into the president of basketball ops. Look, if Bobby's under contract for GM, my opinion, I'm totally fine with that. But I think there needs to be somewhat of a new voice between Bobby and Pelly at this point. Someone that can connect. Someone that can connect in a different way. I think that we might need.
This is why I would love.
So you guys don't think it's going to be Bobby then?
I mean, it could be, but based on how Pelly's moved, I doubt it.
I doubt it. Pelly, the way what he's done in a year, not even a year. Shanahan gone. TFC originally, I think it was last year, gone. Masai Ujiri gone.
Yeah, he ain't trying to go and have Masai's acolytes in here. Like, I'm sorry, he ain't trying to do that. I'll say this. Going back to the question, it could be a CA guy. I'll put it this way. What I want as a description.
This is funny.
What I would like as the type of guy I'm looking for, I just want a guy in this case here that is a hardcore, knows the CBA, knows the cap, knows the connections around the league, and just has a very stoic type of personality. I don't need a celebrity. And I think a part of this too is like this cult of personality. I think a lot of Raptor fans think that we need all the time. We don't need that. We're grown now. We've taken the training wheels off. We don't need that. We don't need Isaiah Thomas. We don't need Masai Ujiri. We just need to get a hardcore hoops guy, in this case, that's been around the block. And in this case here, I don't even think it needs to be a vet. I would love to get one of these young fellas, the assistant GM, these roll runs, and let's roll with that. Just get a dude that knows what the hell he's doing. Like Brad Stevens, they didn't even try there. Brad Stevens is shown to be a better. He's a pretty damn good coach. I don't think he's the greatest coach, but he's a pretty good one. And he actually ended up being a better executive than coach.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, all business. He doesn't have to be in the limelight. Let the players have the limelight. Let the coach have the limelight. I don't need to be the face of the team. I'm just going to be doing my thing in the background.
I think it's going to be someone with a bit of experience, though. So, like an assistant GM, I don't know if you can just put them right up to president of basketball ops. I think you can make a GM who's been there a while, and you can promote them that way. I don't know if that jump from assistant GM right to president is a jump too high in this situation.
You know what, though, Coach?
Who's got experience, in my opinion.
Coach, you know who did that, though? Jeff Weltman.
It's true.
That's true.
That's true. That's true.
He did it. He's done pretty good. I'm just saying. So it's Jeff Weltman. Jeff Weltman. He made that exact jump.
Yeah, but
but he was a GM though, and then went there. Yeah, Masai was president at that time, and then Jeff Weltman was GM for like 2 years or something like that. Yeah. And then he made the jump. The how Keith Pelly put it was experience, especially in the business world, but more the basketball connections. Like, I want someone, I tweeted this out, ideally, maybe someone with a bit of a personality, right? To kind of, capture the audience, capture the fan base to a degree.
So not Bobby.
So someone like Masai, oddly enough, maybe. But someone who's got good relationships with other executives and agents. Beyond had said earlier, agents are pretty much the key.
Yep.
Right? That's the key to the player.
Yep.
And if you screw around with the agents too much, it's hard to get those relationships back.
Relationship-driven business.
It might cost us a draft pick possibility, right? The other day. Aaron Goodwin and Masai ain't the best of buddies. And he's like, don't even talk to my client. When you get these type of situations like that, man, it's like it gets very awkward for you to start. Your circle starts getting smaller and smaller. We used to make a joke. It's like we have like 3 teams we only trade with. There's like the Spurs. I can't remember it was the Knicks and someone else. I can't remember.
Yes. Yes.
because everyone else like just done with us.
There's always good old Sacramento though to lean on.
Oh
you
yeah,
need, you need you need a good PR move to go to them.
Stauskas. Always.
I think the other thing is that this is a comment from before where people said that GMs got tired of dealing with Masai. That's another aspect of this where it's sometimes because you're always trying to get the deal. I always say that Masai was like one of the best GMs for a previous era because the other era, the old era of the NBA, moved so much slower in terms of how fast deals would be made that like he was the perfect guy to just sit and wait and then just pounce on deals. The NBA moves so fast. That's why it's like him and Pat Riley. Like you can't just wait and sit and wait and wait and whatever.
Right.
You know, so you know these things happen. You know, so yeah. I will open up things now. Sorry, I'm seeing that.
It's funny as you open things up. You know, everyone talks about, oh, you know, this is one of the things where he's like so emotional with the championship guys and stuff like that. And like Brad Stevens, cold-blooded. Brad Stevens said, I mean, not barely finished the playoffs, and this 1 year away. Holiday, it's been fun. Bye. Porzingis, it's been fun. Bye. Al Horford, pretty much we aren't re-signing you. We didn't lose any sleep. And now he's talking about Jaylen Brown talks. A man he coached for like 6 years. Like I mean, like you gotta look at it this way. You gotta be cold-blooded about this. And whatever the emotional thing is or not, I don't know. I'm still in two minds about how I feel about that because sometimes I think he uses that as a bit of a cudgel. It's like, oh, we're so emotional about this and that, but yet you're still bad mouthing the player behind their back because you want a discount. So like it's like I don't know which side to believe in this case when it comes to that type of stuff. But I think we just need fresh ideas, fresh management, a person of this era, of this mindset, man. Because I think I always disagree with coaches. I don't think we need someone with a big personality anymore.
So I'll just say this: I just put a link, you know, a link in the chat. So I'm going to bring people up. Feel free to come up. We're going to have Mouth of the North up. I've seen the BlackBerry memes, Jace.
Now, there's one thing we didn't discuss, which I'm going to put it out here right now. I've said it on Spaces. I've said it before. I ain't running from this. You can give me all the smoke you want. All bets are off, people. In other words, your favorite players, whoever they may be, they might be out the door by the same time next year.
They might be or sooner.
Not RJ.
Hey, I'm sorry, Coach.
I know. Hey, it didn't matter. New regime change or not. That didn't matter.
So, I'll put it on the record right now. If it was me as president of basketball operations, to Coach's point, I'm sweeping everybody out. I'm trading every player I can in this case that's not named CMB, Grady Dick, or Jacoby Walter. Everyone that's moved.
I'm going to get Mouth up, but just what do you think of Effie's name? I don't understand the obsession with Boston because I don't think we've really focused heavily on Boston. I think the idea is that they picked Brad Stevens very quickly, and that Brad Stevens pivoted very quickly.
That's my point.
It's about it's about you just said get attached, but again, Brad Stevens is willing to make moves very quickly. That frankly, the guy that I most compare to being Masai Ujiri, which is Danny Ainge, was not able to and willing to make.
And he also got frustrated with him.
Like how long did we hear? Oh, they're in the mix for a Paul George, or they're in the mix. Sorry, Reese, I'm just gonna mute you just for a second so I can hear your background. They're in the mix for all these types of guys, and then out of nowhere, it's like, well, lo and behold, Reese, what is going on? Well, welcome to the stage, but there's a lot going on in this. Are you on route to the new job interview for the MLS?
No, I'm currently driving, and there is a thing in front of my car that my wife decided to put up, and it's always in front of me when I'm driving. So don't mind the cross that you see on the screen there.
We'll protect you,
Get home safe.
Just know I'm not praying for the Raptors because I don't think this is the end of the world, this Masai firing. So no, I'm not praying for the Raptors right now. I hope that people are able to calm down after the initial shock, which should really not have been a shock to anyone. But believe me, people, we'll be okay. He was here for 12 years. He had 12 years, had 6 good ones and 6 bad ones. I got news for people. You got to update your resume. If you don't, you're out.
Is there any world where you thought that he should have played out the year, and why not?
I didn't see the point of him being a lame duck GM, but I said 2 years ago he should have been gone. So this doesn't come as a shock to me because the team has been underperforming at all levels for multiple seasons now. The fact that this team still doesn't have a backup center is a crime that's punishable by being fired. And so there were a lot of things that happened. A lot of them mentioned on Twitter, and I've posted them. I'm not going to go through all of them. But the relationships that everyone's talking about that are great have not been great the last few years, whether it be with GMs, with agents, with players. And Pascal Siakam coming out there and saying what he said tells me a lot about the fact that this image that he has, that all the fans believe that he is not so pristine anymore.
I tell you, Mouth, I am looking forward. I said it today, you guys. I'm looking forward to when the book comes out, the oral history of these last couple of years with him, and it comes out because I think it's gonna be a fascinating read. I might buy that one. That's gonna be a fascinating read to see how this all played out. You know, the post championship, because I agree with you, Mouth. I think there's a lot there that either been obfuscated, people have ignored, or people just don't want to hear it. That I think have happened and is literally sitting there in black and white, and people don't want to hear what is happening. So I am curious to see, what how this plays out in the future, because I think there's gonna be a lot of stories start coming out. And you're already seeing it. To your point, articles already come out already in this case, and I think more to come in the next few weeks. We lost. We
lost him. Okay. Well, I'm not sure if you want to come up as well. I just put a link in the description if people want to, and it's also in the chat. So yeah, hey man, old Mac or not, you're welcome to come up. You don't have to show your face. We already know what you sound like. So
yeah.
But yeah,
I think there's a lot going on behind the scenes. I think more will come out.
For sure.
I think in a lot of ways, it's like there's a bit of a protection racket within the Raptors. What I mean by that is, I think Tannenbaum was, kind of protecting Masai a lot for a long time. I think obviously Masai in this case has been obviously protecting in this case, which he should. I'm not saying he shouldn't. Scotty in this case, but I think there's gonna be a lot of show and prove right now and I think we haven't gotten that part of it, which is the players. There's gonna be a lot of show and prove for some guys, man. And it's gonna be fascinating. Yes, Will. It's gonna be fascinating to see what's going down, right? Because everyone's protecting everyone. It's all the CYA right now, man. The CYA club, right? Everybody, even my man there, Bobby there, pretty much saying like, "Yo, don't put the pick on me." Everyone's covering their own.
Yeah. This is why I was debating whether or not whose pick it was, because I guess Pelly said it was Bobby apparently today or something. I have to re-listen to the thing.
Well, yeah, it was. You'll love Colin Murray Boyles. I'm sure he's going to be a fine prospect. Don't get me wrong. Yep. And then Bobby said no, it was Masai. And Bobby said no, it was Darko. And then asked Darko the questions about how the spacing is going to work. And I'm just like, is anybody going to take responsibility here? Is anyone going to take hold by the horns and let's say, yeah, it was our pick. We loved him. We scouted him for 2 years. We have a lot of information on him. And that's fantastic. Just own up to it. If it works out, fantastic. If it doesn't, well.
And then I'm just imagining Darko just like,
yeah, he simply
what? Oh.
He was the future face of the NBA. The future face of the NBA.
Oh snap!
So we all, for those who don't know, we all watched the draft together. Okay. And I pointed this out. Beyond will remember. I pointed this out. Like the Raptors took the longest of any team to make their pick.
Yeah.
And it's very clear now as to why that was the case. Because if you ask me, I don't think they had any idea who they were picking, especially when Malawatch dropped.
Yeah, they had no clue. They were unprepared. And Nelly mentioned the same point you mentioned. I would love to see. I know Open Gym's never going to show that. I would love someone to get the tape on that baby. Because I think that war room is a hot mess. I agree with you, Mouth, all the way. A hot mess. I think there's obviously a Malawatch faction. obviously the CMB faction. There might be a little island of Noah sitting there as well too.
Well, did you hear about the Danny Wolf stuff where his mom was like, I thought it was I was just like, wait,
they made promises to everybody, man. It's like they were making deals
left, right, and center.
Yeah, I think CMB might have been their guy, but then Malawatch fell to them, and I think there was kind of a group for Malawatch, a group for CMB, and then someone had won out, and then they took him because I don't think they thought Malawatch was there. We didn't think he was going to be there, and then everyone in the fan base gets made fun of, saying, "Oh, you guys just wanted Malawatch, blah blah blah."
One guy thought he'd be there. One guy thought he'd be there.
Yeah.
Just saying, I'll put it on record.
It's like, you pick the best player available. You don't pick the tall guy because he's the best fit. Well,
Coach, how is that?
This ain't this is not pick 3. This is pick 9.
What is the derelict of duty there, Coach? How are you not prepared in this case that Malawatch might drop? What? It makes me scared.
Was Bobby the final vote? This is it. I don't know.
And if the reports are true, guys, there were teams trying to move up to 8, thinking that the Raptors were going to take Malawatch.
Well, and here's the funny thing is you have the first open gym is Masai Ujiri.
What's the first open gym?
Hey, young fella, we got to get to work together. The next moment is just like,
Yeah, the timing of that was not good. I get it. He wanted to stay on till after the draft.
Sorry, it's not,
but
it is.
Basically, he was gone while they were doing their recruiting process and interviews and stuff like that. And I'm just like, I don't know about that look. I mean, maybe there's a respect aspect to Masai who wanted to stay, and I get that aspect. I really do.
I think that there. See, this is where I appreciate what you're saying, Coach. I understand. That's where I think their deference and respect for Masai, in some ways, I think went a little too far because you got to do what's best for your franchise. I honestly thought they should. If with what Pelly told us is the beginning of the month, so the beginning of June was a wrap. If that's the case and you knew that already at the beginning of June, that means you knew in the beginning of May. So in my mind, you should have gotten rid of him then and get the guys that you want in here to get the draft pick you want. Because for him to pick a draft pick, which is under the Masai philosophy, that now the next guy coming in has to own that, that's not good. I'm sorry, that's not good.
It's one of the reasons, like, even though I don't agree with the pick at all, I do understand why you might want it to work out, because if this doesn't work out, people will always look at, was that Masai's or was that Bobby's? Who had the final call on that? Because if it works out, no one's going to complain about it, right?
This has felt like a very fractured organization for, I would say, at least a couple of years. And we speculated to that, but had no proof. I think you got all the proof you needed in the last month.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think the fact that you see what the trade deadlines used to be pretty much just schizophrenia, where 1 second it's like, oh, we're looking to do this, oh, we're looking to do that, oh, we're going to trade for some vet. Like time and time again, it's going back forth. Like if there's like I think I made that point, you guys. And I said, listen, the OG deal seemed to be a well-structured, conceived trade in some ways. It took time. And the Siakam one seemed like a hot mess where I'm just rushing to get the homework done because I forgot to do it the night before. Like, it's like you can't believe they came from the same organization. You know?
Like, I don't care about the result of the Siakam trade, but for them to not get any young player from the Pacers, not one, is a crime that should be punished as well.
Well, hey man, we got Kyra Lewis.
Yeah, how's he doing in Beijing? How's he doing in Beijing?
Can you highlight Daryl's comment?
Great Duolingo.
No, sorry, the one before that.
Sorry.
The one where it says he's from South Sudan.
Yeah.
Because we had this conversation too about Malawatch. I think there would be some athletic kind of immigration exceptions that would be. I don't think that would be quite of an issue. I get it is an issue, but I think there'd be exceptions that you can work around that. Athletic exceptions, I think it's called.
Exactly. There are different types of essentially it's a form of a work visa. Like, if you're in medicine, there's H-1B, et cetera, or J-1. There's different, or in tech, there's different visas that you can be on and get exceptions for. And, I don't see it being an issue because he's going to have to work in the NBA. And he might have to travel here, and like the team that he's on, he might have to travel to different places. Now, if that team has an extradition, or if you're traveling to a place that has an extradition agreement where they can send that guy back to wherever, that's an issue. And so that's an issue where, which I don't think we have that. But Enes Kanter, we had an extradition agreement with Turkey. So if he came here, we would have to. We had an agreement with Turkey that like we would have to send him over. So it's like don't bring him over here.
Yeah, that's
but
why
I
I
don't.
never.
Exactly. Yeah, we had Jordan Nwora. How's that working out? I remember
Kenyon,
Jordan Nwora was like talked about as them bringing him back, and I said, "Where's this guy going to play?" And he doesn't play defense at all. And yeah. Anyways.
Kenyon, there's no excuse. This team has experience drafting international players. They drafted Jonas Valanciunas, who had to stay a year in Lithuania, and they made sure they brought his ass here. Like, I don't think that there's an excuse saying he can't get a work visa. We're not going to draft him. I think it's silly. They had to do it with Andrea Bargnani. If this is Cooper Flag and he's from South Sudan, do you think there's a problem? Like, it's ridiculous.
No,
it's completely ridiculous.
I love the image of that. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Victor Wembanyama from France, if he couldn't get here, you think they would have found a way to get him here?
Yeah.
Like, come on, guys.
Listen, I'll put it this way. When a guy is whatever level of talented, come hell or high water, and sometimes the hell comes from the person involved, right? I'll give you a perfect example. We don't have to talk about it in depth, but Antonio Brown is a good example. He gonna play. You're gonna give him a chance. Probably more chances that the guy is supposed to get. If the person is that athletic and that gifted, trust me, they will find a way. So yeah. But yeah, I just think just in terms of it is what it is. We haven't talked about the second round pick, so we can get to that in just a second. But is there
another Smurf?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Before we go, goodness. Yeah, I do want to say just one thing. The finals, I do think also compounded certain issues as well.
Yes.
When you're seeing the guy that you just shipped out or the guys that you just shipped out all be very, very successful on other teams while you're sitting at home, and frankly, the star player is coming out and saying, I want to strap on hockey skates, that is not a good look. It may not, some people will say that shouldn't be taken that seriously or whatever, but sometimes perception does matter. Right. And the perception of it. I mean, you hear Patrick Williams as a good example where reports are coming out where Patrick Williams had to be coaxed into $90 million to play. Like, that's not a good look for the Bulls organization to have to pay that guy. Now they have to figure that out to try to find him, I guess, another trainer where maybe he'll be motivated. I think overall, and I'm not trying to come down just on Barnes or anything like that. I'm just saying the whole perception of like the situation and seeing that as a TV guy. Because remember, people, Pelly came in, and the first thing that he did is that there were reports that he was joining in on practices and basically watching over everyone's shoulder to see what was going on. At that point, the clock is ticking. Beyond, you were going to say something, and yes, people like and comment. I guess if you can't comment, at least like and subscribe.
I think it's all, I think I'm glad you brought Barnes because he's going to be interested to see what type of mindset he comes into training camp with. Because I'm curious to see how serious he takes this now. Because now it's for real now. His blanket, like if you remember the Peanuts in this case, Linus had the little blue blanket. His blue blanket's gone now. He got to figure this out now, and he got to figure out now real fast what the deal is because there's no protector there to say, you are untouchable now. No, man. Everyone's on skates now, and everyone's is a swivel. Everybody in this case here is like Eric Lindros right now looking for Scott Stevens. Everyone's looking around because you don't know when you hit that blue line, it might be on. Okay.
Well, there's two now that's gone. Well, there's two there's Masai gone and the recent draft pick.
Mm-hmm. True. So pressure on coming from both ends. And they say, pressure from above, pressure from below. And I think right now, you have to look at it from a perspective like you're Scotty, man. Like this is put up or shut up time. Even it was already like that before this. If this don't wake you up in this case to kind of get it together, if you think you can get it together, I don't know what will. But I mean, I don't think people realize how short a time frame we are talking about. Perhaps
Yeah. Anytime you get a new regime in. Oh, sorry, Beyond. My apologies.
No, you're right. Go ahead, Coach.
No, anytime you get a new regime change. But ever since Luka Doncic got traded last year, when he was just 4 or 5 months removed from the NBA Finals, Anybody's up for grabs, man.
And Coach,
Anybody's
what
up for a
happened in
trade.
Dallas at that point, Coach?
Say it again.
What happened in Dallas?
It's a luck of the draw. Luck of all luck.
Right, but I'm going back to when he got traded. Did they not have an ownership change too? Yes, they did. No more Mark Cuban there to save you.
It was Mary and the Adelson family or whatever.
Yeah.
So the face of the league's in trouble.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Speaking of which, Wemby is doing just fine in learning it to be a monk. But yeah.
Coach, to your point, we just saw the Denver Nuggets get rid of their entire coaching staff and front office 2 years after winning a championship,
and right before the playoffs.
and we got people crying about Masai from 2019.
Literally
really?
Right before the playoffs, they're like,
we fired Nick Nurse. We fired Nick Nurse and Masai. I didn't see the tears from Nurse.
No, definitely. Well, I mean, look, the
situations different, but
the situations are a little bit different. Like I see your point is, it's hard for us to keep hanging on to 2019. That was 6 years ago, and the NBA things move fast, as Beyond says. You got like 2 years of enjoying things, not even, and when you get to year 6 of that, and it has not gone well in 4 years.
Yeah, Boston
happens.
got rid of Brad Stevens and put him upstairs. I mean, he was a good coach. He got them far, but he never got them over the top, and they replaced him.
You want Darko to interview for the president job?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is to be fair, Brad Stevens made the leap and saw the writing on the wall, and he took the jump, which was a smart jump for him. But hey,
I'm going to start following pickleball if that happens, man. I think
that's what I got to say to Darko.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Darko's already making the picks and stuff already. Question: what do you guys think of the second rounder? I actually like the second rounder, but in terms of, again, I say it with CMB. There's in a vacuum and in cool cat man. Cool. There's in a vacuum and then there's everything else. I think that this kid is really good. I think he's gritty. I think he jumps up the gym, and I think he's a dog. But there's also, like, in terms of the context of this team and who's on this team, hey, I'm trying to give the full,
No, James is there.
No, James, I'm laughing at that.
Oh, I missed that. That is.
I know it's funny as you're explaining about the rationale of why he's a good pick, and then James is coming here just like, yo.
How many Fred VanVleets are we gonna draft? How many?
Listen, it's like LeBron. I got 2 more for y'all.
Like, we got 3 Fred VanVleets and 3 Scotty Barnes on this roster right now.
This is a good question. How many years will it take for the Raptors to recover? I don't know. So to recover from what? Like Masai being gone, or to recover from the state of the franchise? Because those are 2 different things. I think it just depends on who they hire for the next president of basketball operations, how quickly that happens, and how quickly they're able to move. If you have someone, the next person that comes in, and they're willing to move rapidly and quickly, then I think that you're looking at a shorter time span. But I think if you're looking at something that's longer, then it's a different situation.
Can I answer that question?
Yeah, for sure.
As it is with every sport, it's when winning starts. Winning cures everything. When you start winning, you will recover from that.
It does.
I'm going to say it takes a long time, no matter what, Coach, because we have a very bloated roster right now of players making a lot of money. And so it's going to take some time to clear out those salaries and replace them with competent players that don't make that much. So I think it's going to take a while.
Yeah. Now we do have someone else on deck. I'm going to get them on deck in just a second. I think it's Wayno from Twitter. But yeah, just to answer a couple more of these things. Scotty gave is up to yeah. I mean, the team needs to be hungry moving forward. Is what I will say to that. He was a 36% shooter. I'm not sure who this is in reference.
Yeah, I'll make my point about the pick, because I actually predicted it yesterday when you and I filmed. He was one of the guys I had mentioned. I like this Elijah Martin kid. I do like his compete level. I watched that championship against Florida. He really kind of stood out to me. His athleticism, the compete, the toughness. And I don't mind those guys at pick 37 or second round picks who I think are just going to work hard and challenge people, because he'll challenge people is right. So I didn't mind the pick. I would have gone with the French kid Renault. I was really about roster construction and again trying to put some complementary pieces to my franchise guy. That's just me. I don't mind.
I got a question for you guys. I don't know if you discussed it. Would you have moved up to draft a center, or would you have taken Ryu or Renault?
I would take him.
I think the way that I'll let Bianco first actually.
Me, I would have done so because last night, I had to go through the painful moment of listening to Kenya give me the free agent market for the centers, man.
Exactly.
At night, it wasn't pretty, man. I was like, good Lord, that was a horror story. So, like, to your point, Mouse, yeah, I would have gone there a few points if I get myself one of those young centers and give it a shot. But hey, that's just me. Who knows? Like I thought it'd be worthwhile, but hey, I guess.
Like I said, nothing against the picks, but like eventually you're going to need some size if you want to win something.
You know what? I'll say to this. I don't think that you needed to trade back using the 9. This is what I kept saying. I don't think you had to trade back from the 9 to get another pick in this draft. You just have to move rapidly, and they didn't do that. And so that I think that's clear. You know what? Like I think that there was a number of guys that went in the second round right before our pick and around our pick, and even after our pick in terms of centers. If you wanted a center, it was there for the taking. I wouldn't have minded them going if they're going to go with the guard. To go with like a Tyrese Proctor. So I'll say that for me is that like I would have went with just a bigger guard to get another playmaker. It depends on how you view Shed because they already got basically a bunch of short guards that will compete with Shed for minutes potentially. So you might as well just get one who's at least bigger. Yeah, that's how I look at it.
Is my girl Harleen still on here, man? Because hey, we picked up her boy, man, in a 2-way contract today, man. Big D. Nemhard.
No. Oh, yeah. You did.
Yeah, the Mavericks did. Yeah.
Mavericks, yeah. You got
yeah. Oh, there's Will, by the way, but continue.
No, I'm just saying after the draft, though, there were 2 people I kind of feel bad for just on the roster. I'm not the other stuff, but I feel bad for Scotty and I feel bad for Pirtle. Pirtle, you still don't have any backup. And then kind of Scotty's like, well, are you really, through this draft, are you really complimenting my skill set? I'm just saying this in a vacuum. I know there's more things are complicated about that.
So, Coach, sure. I know you're such a lovely gentleman in this case here, but Sky's getting paid $220 million. I ain't feeling that sorry for him. As far as Pirtle goes, he can get extension. And have you seen his girlfriend? He can be all right.
Jeez, Louise.
He can be all right. Sleep for the Austrian hammer.
I'll decline to comment on that. We have Will on stage. Will, how are you?
So easy. The press conference is like, hey man, what will deal with you? That's my boy, guy. I want the straight goods. That's why I need to get a microphone in front of, man. Yacht boy.
Absolutely.
Yacht, telling it like it is.
So
Will, that girlfriend of the first pick was a highlight as well. My goodness.
Absolutely. Okay. So, anyways, I'm gonna get to Will real quick. Which, by the way, yes, Chloe Kitts. She might be a Toronto Temple. You never know. She is actually. Yeah. They actually play the same position. Funny enough.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. Her jump shot's a little wonky, but it goes in. She can hoop actually. Will,
watch her a bit.
Yeah. Will, your thoughts? How are you doing, man?
I'm not doing too bad, guys. Just wondering, looking forward towards who they hire. It's going to be very interesting.
Do you see Bobby? Do you think that it's gonna? Do you think Bobby's truly going to get a chance, or do you think that they're going to kind of like keep it moving?
It's all lip service. And keep it moving.
I think so too.
You know what, Will? I got the sense of the press conference that this decision may happen quicker than we think. You got that impression too, guys? Like I got the impression like Pelly's like trying to say, but I would say, like, who knows? There might be something by the time, like, July's done. Like, hey, this is a wrap.
Based on how he treated the soccer team, he doesn't wait around. You're not going to get a similar Darko situation where it's going to be, like, 3 months later. And, like, people are talking about end of summer. I'm like, I don't think it's going to be that fast. Like, I think you're going to see a decision and things come to a head really quickly. So if I'm Bobby and I'm trying to, like, get the team in order or whatever. That might be why you're seeing, like as Will pointed out, like Quickly and RJ suddenly like pop up, as trade targets and stuff.
Well,
like
I think the other thing too is the fact that there's this long runway with Masai for the last month. I mean, let's face it, man. We've all been there, especially even in corporate Canada, corporate America. There's backdoor chats happening already and conversations happening for the last month. I'm probably already lining up guys already.
Should he have even been here by this time, or should he have they should have just gotten this out of the way? I know it's a bit of a distraction, but yeah.
We talking about in this case, like
Masai.
Should he have been here until? No, I think they should have. At the end of the season, they should have moved on. Like
yes, I agree.
He should not made the pick.
Get that distraction out of the way then.
Yeah, right. Because when we had the discussion, I think one of the podcasts we were discussing that where things would go. I said like, there's no way he's going to go into it as a lame duck. That's why I said that this is going to end real soon. I think I said that by Christmas, this is going to be a decision. This is going to be a done deal. Because there's no need to have him make. I still can't believe they made him make the pick. I still can't get over that.
And then say hello, and then almost because they were playing a presser with Masai and the pick today. Actually, I believe.
Well, that's the thing I don't get in this case here. So this is the point, where people mention, like, the timing being strange, because it seems as if Masai thought that okay, it may not happen, but maybe it might happen a few weeks from now, not necessarily the next day after the draft. Because, like, to your point, if he was going to have the press conference with the kid, why even do the press conference with the kid? Or even set that up?
True.
So is CMB next week and Elijah Martin? Is that next week or is that going to be tomorrow?
It was supposed to be today, but I guess they're moving it to, I think, around closer to Summer League. So yeah, next week.
So it's just weird. That part's weird. I'm not so much that he was gone, but I actually more the mindset is like, why wait to this long for him to make the pick and his expertise and all this type of stuff? Like, that's what you pay people for. What the hell Dan Tolsman's doing? Isn't that his job?
Yeah, this is. I think part of the problem is that you've had people that are all over the map here and there, and kind of. It's like living with your ex after you break up.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's awkward, man. Hey, Will, so who you want, man? Who you want the big chair? We lost Will?
I think
you there, Will?
I think we lost Will for now.
I really don't. I haven't really thought about who specifically I want. Like, I have an idea of someone who's experienced, but not. I don't really have anyone specific in mind. I just don't know who's out there.
So here's three possibilities. You tend to see executives come from these three spots: an ex-player, an executive, let's say like a GM, it moves up, or maybe a former president of basketball operations. That's the other possibility. So I'll put them in the same pot. And the third pot in this case would be outside. In this case, an agent.
Yeah.
I was going to say there is one that just came available.
What are you talking about?
Masai.
Oh, well, yeah, but yeah,
Sorry, that was bad.
But so like I don't know, is there any type of like archetype you prefer? Like someone's an agent, someone that's like which is kind of a new model in this case that's coming out. The
Andre doesn't think that they're actually going to replace him. He thinks that it's just lip service.
Andre.
Does he mean that Bobby will just step into president? Because does that mean that Dan Tolson steps into GM, or do they look for a new GM?
No, I think he doesn't think that they'll even fill the spot. He thinks that they just said that they're going to fill the spot and then not do it.
Oh, no, I think they'll fill the spot.
Yeah.
They're going to fill the spot. He was very clear about that. He said that last month when he fired Shanahan, he said at the time, I think he said, hey, everything, this is not a template for every team. He gave himself the out. And I think the reason why he wants a president of basketball operations is for twofold. One is, and Kenyon brought this up already, is the importance of the Raptors overall for the whole health of the MLSE.
Yeah.
That's one thing. The second part is probably one of the bigger reasons. These guys, in this case, and Rodgers, don't have a lot of basketball connections.
No.
Right? So they are hockey guys. I'm sorry, they're probably a bit baseball guys. They don't know the guys in the NBA. And I don't think he's looking to try to be that type of guy that knows the guys in the NBA. So if that's the case, because let's face it, for you Leaf fans out there, buckle up, man, because let me tell you something, boy. Pelly can be all over you guys, man.
Yeah, like white on rice.
They white on rice, man, with the Leafs because he can be all over the Leafs. He can put a president basketball operations and do their thing, the basketball side, but he got the laser, he got the Death Star looking at y'all right here, boys. So Leaf fans, buckle up.
Yeah. He kind of said today, I'm not sure if I heard him correctly, what because we're rebuilding, we need a president of basketball ops. And I'm like, no, you just don't have the connections in the basketball world.
Yeah.
There's a difference, right? You've got the connections in the hockey world because Toronto is like the mecca of hockey. But the Raptors are not the mecca of basketball in the NBA. There's a difference.
Right.
So I see this. I see them saying it's going to be yes. At some level, you have to have trust in the person, right? Like you're not going to just, hire someone that you don't have trust in. So let's keep that in mind, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry.
I found it very interesting that Pelly made sure to answer. I think it was Will Liu. He answered his question by saying, they were asking who are you looking to replace Masai with, and basically he said a person who's 100% committed to and worried about the basketball team.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, that was a loaded response. Woo-wee.
So if that's not a shot at Masai, then I don't know what is.
I mean, KOC had that source. I think like 2 hours later, it said, people were concerned about him doing too much charity work and all that stuff.
Yeah, like that's what stuck out to me during that press conference.
Well, it used to be a joke we used to have amongst ourselves where I said, like, I'm not sure Masai, let's see, in this case here, I'm not sure Masai wants to kiss more babies or actually try to get more players. You can tell with Masai.
So I'm going to get one other person on stage just now that anyone else will just kind of like put one at a time just because we're,
Will, what would you do, man, if you were the president of basketball operations of the Toronto Raptors? What would be your first set of moves?
Well, my first set of moves beyond would be to find some way to trade both Cook and Barrett and just get more balance that way. Mm-hmm. And just get more shooting around and maybe take a swing on somebody who can create advantages because there's like maybe one player on the team that can still do it right now.
God bless Will. See in this case here, look at this, man. Look at the diplomatic response here, man. He's still looking to give number 4 a chance. I mean, God bless you. God bless you.
Hey, man.
Well, the way that I saw this after the draft too, and now they're putting a lot on Brandon Ingram next year to score.
Of course,
create.
they think he's Kawhi.
They didn't help him in the draft, and it doesn't look. I don't know if they're going to help him through trade or free agency. And if they think he's Kawhi, I like the deal at the time. I was of the three of us who's hosting. I was probably the one that liked it the most. But even I'm like, man, this is a bit risky. And now what has happened since then? Oh man, this is getting real risky now with some of the draft picks and moves that probably are to come. It's going to get dicey quick, man. And just looking at the NBA landscape too of Atlanta getting better, they probably hit the best offseason so far next to Orlando, who's also in the East, because all these teams see how wide open the East is.
So I
just saw a rumor. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, go for it. I just want to get some new people up on the stage.
I'm gonna leave now, Kenyon. So you go ahead, okay?
Take care.
All right, guys.
Yeah, just one rumor, guys. Just say I was looking through it right now because it's been quite a quiet day for rumors.
Yeah.
Apparently, Celtics are looking to flip the Simons contract in order to keep their big men. So that's new.
Which big men?
Both Cornet and Horford, I believe.
He was the one half decent center. I was actually interested in free agency.
Okay. We have a new person on stage. Michael, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. Doing good.
Yeah.
God bless, man.
Any thoughts on this real quick?
I do believe, regarding the NBA, we do need to get the kikes out.
Yeah. Don't do that crap. Don't do that on my stream.
Out you go.
Out you go, man. You got clowns up here.
You got clowns. See you later.
You do that, you're out.
Yeah, I agree with the last guy.
Yeah.
Out you go.
Yep.
Sorry. I don't have time for that. Get out of here if you're going to do that. Seriously. Okay. I don't even remember where we were, but
Jesus, did Masai send people to set the stage? Good Lord.
Yeah.
No.
from
no time
now on,
for that.
if you have a weird name or whatever, Blackhawk, you're more than welcome to come up. I did check; it is in the description, by the way. But so do definitely check out the description. I'll also put it in here, Blackhawk. But in general, if you're coming up with a name that I don't recognize anymore, as of now, no. You see how fast I get rid of people. I don't
Jesus,
have
did the
time for that
cookouts send their
nonsense.
best right now? My God.
Yeah, you take that to the cookout. There's the only time I'll mention the cookout here, or take that to Twitter Spaces or whatever. Don't do it here. I don't have time for that. That's
Yeah.
not this platform. You were saying.
It will.
Will, you said
yeah.
you had a rumor or something.
Oh yeah, so it's just the Celtics are considering flipping the Simons contract. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because I thought Simon ain't really a Boston type player really per se, but I say they probably just looking to kind of fill the gap just to buy time for Tatum. But good on them, they could do it. I'm curious.
Oh, breaking news! Apparently, Naz Reid signing a 5-year, $125 million deal with the Wolves.
Hey, props to Naz Reid's agent, boy, putting out that Boston leak, boy. They made sure they signed out real quick.
So they get Gobert, Reid, they drafted Berenger, they took Sikorsky last night. They going 7 foot and above, like all the centers.
The anti-Raptors.
Well, here's the other thing too. Here's the other thing too. Look at the price of that deal, and then you tell me is Pirtle really going to get $30 million or more? He's making an average of $25 million per year, exactly, and he's way more versatile than Pirtle. So yeah. Like I said, Blackhawk, it is that link. So I mean, it worked for the other weird people. So
where do these people even come from? Jesus,
I don't know. I get concerned with people sometimes.
So I'm curious. The point that was made earlier about the guards, right? I think James made that point with the guards.
Yeah, you make your point, then I'll get Blackhawk.
I don't understand how like that's the point we were discussing last night. Where are we gonna find minutes to play all these guys? Because I'm very concerned at the moment of like where Grady and Jacoby's development, and if they're going to find enough time for these guys. Because if Bobby acts any way like how Masai was acting, and as far as not making moves that quickly, mind the pun, I don't know. I don't know where they're going to find time to play these guys. Like 15 minutes a night or 10 minutes a night is not going to cut it this year, man.
Well, that's the part of the crux of the issue leading up to this is just like you have to find minutes. And actually, this is a good point because Blackhawk will be here to talk about that because we talked about it last year when it came to Davion. So welcome, Blackhawk.
Sorry. I'm trying to figure out how to mute the other sound.
I'm sitting there going like, okay, so
no, you're good, Blackhawk.
You're good. You're starting to come up. So it's like I'm looking around here and I'm thinking to myself, okay, we have Jacoby, we have Grady, we have Ochai, we have who else in our guard? Now you got the Martin kid in this case that might get some minutes. Who knows? You got Shed. I mean, I'm figuring out where are we going to play all these guys. It's like that's 6 dudes right there, and I haven't even got the starting lineup yet.
Yeah, and I don't think Trey's available, by the way. Just for people that are talking about Trey. Yeah, it's you have to find minutes, and that's why like it was the Elijah guy, and I think what is his there's another guy that they got. I'm forgetting the name. One of the
the kid from Arkansas.
Yes, yeah, and it's like okay, so that's what I'm saying. Like if I'm Shed, I'm looking and I'm worried about my potential. How much time do I have?
I even mentioned
you didn't mention who?
Battle.
Yeah, but he'll be all right.
No, I know, understand. But it's like one of these things where it's like Blackhawk. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, you don't even have to worry about the time. First things first, summer league. Get these guys on the floor and see who is who. They got to prove who they are. That's the first thing because you're not gonna get on the court if you can't even hold up your end of the bargain, which is to play hard. So we got to find out who they are first. I'm not worried about the time. I mean, the time and anyone who is at the end of the rope, they're going to be in the 905. What I don't think is Boucher's back. I don't think he's back. I don't think Garrett is back because with the current lineup, I don't see any space for them. There's no space. So unless there's a trade happening.
Wait, did you just mention Garrett Temple?
Yeah.
I have not thought about Garrett Temple.
They're signing Garrett
Temple. There's no space.
I will bet you money Garrett Temple's going to be on this roster next year.
No, he can't. There is zero space with the current roster. Zero space.
There might be, yeah.
This is a good example. This is why this is a good example. Okay.
If Garrett and Boucher were here, then you know they would be sitting at the end of the bench and they wouldn't be taking any floor time. But they aren't here, so they have to decide. I think they can only send 2 guys down to the 905, and I'm not talking about the 2-way.
Yeah, the guy that they drafted last night has a guaranteed contract, so he's on the roster.
So
he's a guaranteed contract.
Lawson is
Colin
Castleton, right? Or you remember Colin Castleton is on the team too.
Yeah.
So you have to deal with him. Who was another guy? You were right about Battle, but again, you're gonna make Battle sit down because he's just undrafted, so they're not gonna put him high up on the totem pole. They're gonna have him, sit on the bench.
Yeah, but at some point you got to get minutes to be able to determine what you are, because this is you trying to feed your family as well, right? So,
but every team has that problem where you're gonna say, "Hey, somebody got to warm that seat."
That's not a good thing.
But it's a reality. It's not whether it's a good thing or not. It's a reality. It's a 15-man roster.
I guess
you're never going to get everybody on.
Right? Like, to your point, Blackhawk, I agree. Battle probably will be the 13th man if the team is deep enough.
Right.
For sure.
Still goes back to my point about the 2 key guys that we're talking about, which is Grady and Jacoby. Mm-hmm. If you have RJ and
just play the guys, please do not bench them next season.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Those guys can't be out there playing 15 minutes a night if you expect them to be that. And that's my concern. Because now Brandon Ingram's gonna eat 30 minutes a night, 35 minutes a night.
Okay, but you're thinking the traditional team. Look back on what Indiana did, and
but Indiana
OKC, and I'm not even talking about the playoffs. They basically were going 10 deep because he's rotating them out fast.
Right, but we don't have the balance right now on our roster to do that right now.
And they also had guys deep at every position, not just at guard.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We're guard heavy, and we don't have enough front court players. So
we have AJ Lawson, right?
Right.
He's not making the team.
AJ Lawson is probably back on the 905 for all we know.
See, so you think he's back on the 905? Will doesn't think he's going to be on the team. This is a good example, right?
Because no, contracts that are
probably
fake
on
contracts.
the team.
Sorry. One at a time.
Sorry.
We'll go first, then we'll let Blackhawk finish.
It's those non-guaranteed contracts that people think are real, but it's those ones that just have false guarantees that are never going to be reached. It's one of those multi-year contracts that have an easy out for the team. So he's not going to. He might be on the team, but he won't be on the team on that contract. That's what it is.
Yeah, but if you look at it that way, then that means they're going to go with 14 instead of 15.
That's true.
Because right now they're right at the max.
Yeah, they tend to like to do that.
I think there'll be more deals done before the season starts.
There will have to be.
I think there will happen. It's going to be.
That's a possibility. Yeah.
I believe that RJ is going to start the team with this year. All the rumors that's out there, and now with Masai, I don't know if he'll be there to start the team.
Okay, but what about to February? He could make it to February.
You can't wait till February to make a decision when you're trying to make the playoffs.
No. What we're talking about, if you're looking at the roster
Bruce Brown, come on,
salary, he's got all the way up to February to make all those moves.
I'm going to say that this is what got you fired in the first place. And if you don't want to, if Bobby wants a chance to save his job, he won't wait till February. You need to make a decision faster, regardless of. I say playoffs, Giovanni, but get together here. Sorry, you know what I mean. The proverbial playoffs. If you're gonna at least pretend that you're gonna be a playoff team, you at least need to pretend and LARP. At some point, I think we need to be serious, right? You can't just wait and do the same thing that we just did and say, okay, well, RJ, you have until thing, and Ochai, you have until thing. We just did the same thing with Davion, and then what are you going to see? I guarantee you, Blackhawk, you're going to see people online cussing this man out, adding this dude on Twitter, saying, RJ, you stink, right? think you suck, right? And then what happens? Their value drops. The player's probably unhappy. You saw like open gym of Davion having to go to like mental health therapy, which is important, but still it's like that's tough, right? This is a lot to put on people. So I think, to be fair, you kind of like Ochai is a good example. Are you going to pay him or not? You have to do that, and then that goes back to agent relationships.
This team loves punting things down the road.
Yeah.
Okay, let me put it this way. Say they do exactly what you're saying. Aren't you just changing Ochai for another person?
Well, it depends. Is the other person going to be a guard or not? Because if it's a
It
guard,
doesn't
then
matter
that's
who the
stupid.
person is. It's another roster spot. I mean, he's taking up a spot. Like, the bottom line is we're
but
still
it's
going to
not-
have that 15-man issue.
Yeah, but it's not the same, because it's not just you're focusing on roster spot. I'm focusing not just on roster spot.
You're
but defining
focusing on
roster
salary.
spot. No.
Yeah, because that's when you
No.
bring up Ochai and RJ, those are the only two salary issues you got right there.
What is the commonality between those two?
Don't worry about their position. Don't worry about their position.
That is
Right?
the concern.
Because you're not looking right now to say, hey, let me take Scotty as an example. Okay, let's make the trade.
Well, that's
Scotty.
another example. If he is a
You targeted RJ, right? RJ is in the sights. Ochai is in, because they are what are being talked about because of the salary. Everybody thinks that we're over the tax, or we're close to the tax, and they want to get rid of them because of that. They want to clear salary.
No, that's not their only reason. Part of the reason is because you have two people that play the same similar type of position. You have a lot of guards right now, and that's just the truth, right? It's just like Davion last year in terms of Davion and Jamal Shed. We've been through this before, and at some point you do need those younger players if you believe in them to actually play. So that's all I will say on this. We've seen this before. I don't know if the other guys want to chime in on this, but I think it's not just a positional. And yes, it is somewhat of the salary, but I mean, Ochai is $6 million, and we are just below the salaries. It's not just the salaries.
Yeah, because if it was about the salary, the person I'd be targeting right now is Emmanuel Quickly. If it was about the salary, that's the guy I'd be trying to move off this team as fast as possible. It's been fun, IQ. I don't know how you can get IQ off this team without throwing a pick, which scares me. I ain't gonna lie, because someone's gonna want to get something to take that money.
Yeah. Now the easiest one to move is probably Ochai, just because his salary is lower, to your point.
Exactly.
But that is not the only reason why you move him. I think the thing is that when you look at the overall things, if I'm Ochai, again, I want to be in a situation where, unlike Precious, I'm getting a multi-year guaranteed contract, and I want to be able to show that. And that's at the end of the day, you want to show the world your gifts. So you can't just sit around and like hope and pray that like, oh, maybe Darko's going to play me now like you're Chris Boucher.
Well, I just think with RJ too, it's a little different than Ochai because he makes so much more money, and his role on the team is much different. He's one of the BBQ, I guess. But you have to make a decision. You have to make a decision on him, unlike you did with OG or Pascal or Fred. You can't leave that to the last minute, come a year and a half from now, and then try to trade him because you're going to be just stuck with nothing. Extend him or get rid of him probably this summer. Make a decision.
James
and they're probably going to get rid of him because Pelly 3 times a day said about the luxury tax. So
yeah,
they're counting some pennies today. I think.
Yeah.
Before we get Andre up, is like this is a
Rubbing
perfect
some nickels
example, right?
together.
So you have Andre here suggesting that we go get another guard in Peyton Pritchard, which trust me, Boston does not want to give up.
What is this, midget ball again?
And it's like, exactly. And it's like you want to go and get A, smaller, which everyone complained about, you included, I might add, Andre. And then B, you want to add another guard, which Boston is not. They're very attached to Peyton Pritchard. So yeah, I don't see it. Blackhawk, is there any other thoughts? Just because I do see Brandon, I almost said Brandon Miller or Brandon Ingram up.
We got Brandon Ingram up on here?
Yeah, could you imagine that? That'd be great.
I'll drop.
Oh, you sure? Any final thoughts?
Nah, if something comes up, I'll jump back on.
What do you think of the picks? You like the picks?
Yeah. What do you think of the picks?
I'm good with the picks because I want to see like I have no judgment until I see them on the floor and see how they interact. I like the direction that they're going in. More defense. I believe you're supposed to be pitting all of the players against each other to see who the toughest is who deserves the time. So if these guys can outshine the guys from last year, hey, go with your strongest. The strongest must survive. So that's what I want to see. Like the competition has to get better in order for the team to get better. So let them fight it out in practice.
I will say this to Blackhawks' point. I say this. Bubble, I have no problem with the players overall. I actually mark them from college. And at least this part I give them credit for it. At least they're two-way players. To some extent. Yeah. They're not like, okay, we're just one offense or just defense. That part I give them credit for. The other thing too is I am actually looking forward. I don't think I've looked forward for a summer league for the Raptors in a long time. This summer league team, I am very much looking forward to seeing what this looks like.
What I want to see from them is, can they get stops? Can they do getting stops better than the current guys there? Because I mean, the bottom line is when the clock comes down to the last 7-5 minutes, you got to get stops in order to turn the game around in your favor. So that, like, I'm expecting Shed to survive in this, but this is where Walter and Grady are going to be tested, because guys are coming in who are supposed to, like, you got a top 9 guy. Let's just state it and put it on the table. The competition is supposed to be better on that floor in practice.
Just to your point, Blackhawk, I would be very shocked if Grady Dick plays in Summer League this year. I don't think he should.
You don't want on the roster?
No,
Summer League.
He's a third-year player.
It's his third year.
He's a third-year player.
Yeah. Okay, so he could only ask. He could only ask to get on.
I saw the Bruno experience where they did play him a third Summer League. Those two are in two very different spots. Like developmental. Who's that?
Ochai looked like he was almost out of the league last year.
Well, to be fair to him, he had a better season.
I would not have Grady in Summer League if I was. I have Kobe and Shed.
Yeah.
I am curious to see that starting lineup though, because if it's Mobo and CMB and Shamshi, I'm like, all right, let's see it.
You think you're going to have Shed, right?
Yeah, I think they'll have Shed. Yeah. The front court's a little concerning to me, but we'll see how it works.
And Blackhawk, I agree.
Always.
I'll say I just in terms of minutes, I hope he plays over Mobo when the season comes. So I will say that, because a number 9 pick not playing, that would be a little bit of a concern. But
yeah, I agree with. I think Mobo will go behind him depth wise, or unless they're playing 2 different positions.
Yes. But anyways, I will talk to you later. Take care. I come back on the next stream.
See you, Blackhawk.
All right, guys.
Stay safe out there in those streets. We just saw crazy people up here, so yeah. Brandon Lee. I think this is probably going to be the last call that we'll make, because I know we're getting late. I'm not sure if Coach or anyone.
Yeah, I get maybe 3 minutes left, so I'll stay here for a couple more minutes.
Okay, Brandon Lee, your thoughts?
Here's the thing. What Blackhawk was missing is we weren't talking about why they need to move. It's because we're trying to make minutes for everybody. RG and Agbaji are the only 2 people that can move to make minutes. Theoretically,
yeah. Exactly.
And it makes the most sense. And they're already shopping RJ. So we already know they're trying to move him. Who's that for? It's probably for Grady.
Yeah. I mean,
and
for
Jacoby.
Grady and Jacoby, yeah.
And Jacoby to a certain extent.
Yeah, because I really want to see those guys get at least 25 to 30 minutes a game next year.
Because that's the thing, you have 48 minutes in a basketball game, right? And that has to be kind of divvied out in a particular way. It just is how it just is what it is.
Like I mean, I don't know about you guys, but maybe Brandon Ingram should play no more than 30 minutes next season per game.
Yeah, I don't want Ingram to play more than 32 minutes.
He's the one where I think within a game, I know people are saying they're going to load manage him, and which is funny. Darko didn't really load manage people last year, but I think he was turning into Darko Nurse. But it just in general, you want people to be able, like a Brandon Ingram, if you're trying to get the maximum amount of games, yeah, it's like 32 minutes and then cut it. Like,
Yeah. One more piece of news. Just it seems like apparently Josh Giddey's maybe going to get a quickly type deal in free agency.
Okay.
I mean, Chicago. What's Chicago gonna do?
Yeah, it's true. It's
Yeah,
at least
Chicago
30
started
million, I think.
Yeah, they started playing well near the end of the season. So I
They
mean,
did.
Chicago's starting to kind of get something together, and my man Matas was doing his thing, boy.
Oh, he was.
Yeah.
I like Matas, man.
When we did that draft, man, we're like, please give, if he falls, man, that was our guy, man.
They're building a long team, Matas and Asenge. It's going to be in that Raptors' first game in Summer League. We get CMB versus Noah. That's going to be interesting to see.
I want to see CMB lock him up.
Yes.
Because apparently he's very, very good defensively, and Noah's supposed to be very good offensively. So,
well, I would say Noah's also pretty good defensively.
In terms of driving.
Yeah, I think CMB definitely got a little bit more like size in terms of like mass to him, I would say, than Noah. But Noah's also got length. There's the kind of it's a little bit of a trade-off.
I want to see if he could get his shot off in traffic, and that's what we're going to find out. Like because that's the first test of it in the summer league where you're playing against guys that are going to be NBA level height, and that's going to be a very interesting thing to see.
Because I mean, the litmus test is okay. Is the defense really what it's advertised? But it's summer league first of all, and also like I kind of expect that from him. But to your point, it's like okay, he hasn't really played competitive ball on a regular basis since the tournament or whatever. So like to your guys' point, what does he look like, and what skills has he added?
Gentlemen, I am out. I have to go, but it's been a good conversation. Thank you for all the people coming in and joining Basketball Rewind as we've discussed everything about Masai's departure today. We've discussed like the great that he's done, kind of the bad and the ugly a little bit, and where we're going forward with it. It's all kind of mixed in together. Such is life. The good, the bad, the ugly, such is life. So
absolutely.
Anyways, take care, everybody.
Take care, Coach. We're
Take care, Coach.
We're probably gonna end pretty soon. I'll just because Brandon got up, I'll give him a couple more minutes just because I know beyond you probably need to go as well or potentially. So, Brandon, any other thoughts about just the team in general, and Will can obviously chime in as well.
Well, what Pelly is saying seems to point to a guy like, well, you know who everybody's going to be talking about is going to be Bob Myers. Everybody's going to speculate as Bob Myers because of what he's saying. Who's a winning, established guy with good connections in the league.
That's true. Myers might be saving him. Yeah, that's true.
That works for CAA too.
Yeah.
Myers might be waiting for a certain job, though. That's the real question. So,
yes, a little closer to home. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, in Cali, going back to Cali. YouTube do not copy strike me for that. I do think that he should be one of the people considered. I mean, if they can get Bob Myers, that'd be great. And to be honest, knowing Bob Myers' style, this is the type of team that would be perfect because he likes to come in and he likes to be part of like the early part of journeys and then bounce.
Right? I mean, he's also got pieces to work with here that he can actually turn into something.
Yes,
if he wanted to.
Yes, so he'd be right there up on the list. Your thoughts, Will?
No, just it'll be a very good hire. I would say that
for sure.
They have to nail this hire though. That's all. It's about.
What about the Nuggets? The Nuggets guy just got canned, right? No.
No. I'm good.
It wasn't
after reading what happened to him.
He left just before he ended up picking up the pieces afterwards.
Who was it?
I think,
I mean, I'd go after somebody from OKC or San Antonio, obviously.
That's the way I'm looking at it too, Brandon. I want to get someone to just like kind of in a really good org and say, okay, guy, here's your chance to run the big club and go
to a smart team and just hire their second person.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what the Magic did with us.
That's true.
They took Jeff Weltman and a bunch of other guys.
Yeah.
to build their front office.
That's a great point, Brandon, because that's the brain drain that people don't really talk about. Like, look,
Yeah.
man, we've lost a lot, man. Teresa's now with the Temple. We've lost a lot of people over the time.
Yep. Stackhouse, other guys. There's a lot throughout different parts of the organization where we've kind of seen a bit of brain drain and haven't really filled up the ranks. And we'll see. Hopefully, this gives an opportunity for us to really.
Like, who's
to do
Kevin
this.
Pritchard's right hand man right now in Indy? Like, get that dude.
Yeah.
We could. I mean, do you think there's a GM president duo that they're looking at?
I don't know. I think they do it in pieces. I think that you get your basketball of operations. I don't know. Say Bobby's around for 2 more years, but really like next year could be a lame duck year or whatever, and you give him just more direction or whatever. I think the point is like you just get your guy, right? It should be like how you acquire guys, right? If you're gonna go get Giannis, you go get Giannis. You figure the rest out after.
Here's just one quick trade thing, just based off the Simon stuff. Is there any trade you would do where you would bring him in if it was RJ going out in a 3-teamer? Because obviously Boston wouldn't take him because they want to cut salaries.
What are we doing at that point?
Exactly.
We have IQ already. That's redundant.
That's more money, isn't it?
And that's also
it's
adding
about the
more money
same.
too. Yeah.
Are you
think
talking
it's
about
about the-
Simons?
Yeah.
I think it's about the same as RJ. It's either the same or it's pretty close.
With RJ, I see less of a just because he has a player option, so it's like I don't know if he's going to opt in. But at least I guess if you want him to truly be an expiring, it just gets you off that, faster. I guess in a sense. So
Yeah, I mean, but it would have to be like a 3-team trade. We have to find some team for RJ.
Just go to Portland. Portland wants him. Apparently,
if they want him,
Maybe you can
Apparently
trade
Portland wants him.
trade him for DeAndre Ayton and watch his fan base melt.
I don't get the Portland thing, RJ. I don't understand where he fits in it.
Apparently they want him, so I don't know.
I've been running that through my head, like, where in that roster would I want RJ on that team in this game?
Maybe it's about getting off Grant's money. That's the only way.
That's where it's
To a 3rd team, though, because it's obviously not going to be here.
Right.
Well, you hope so.
I don't want Grant's money.
I guess the other possibility is Sacramento. Ugh.
Sacramento for what?
What, for
Monk?
DeMar?
For Monk?
This Monk stuff and the Sabonis stuff, it make me nervous, man.
I guess
that
now
Sabonis rumor was crazy today, too.
Yeah, now that Masai's gone, I guess DeMar can come back.
Yeah.
I don't want. I love DeMar, but I don't want him back. Honestly.
No, don't think we're in the DeMar
No.
phase at this point. No.
Just in terms of who's the other guy that we said on Sacramento? There's not a lot. Oh, the Sabonis stuff. So, Will, you said there's something about Sabonis today that came out. What was it?
So on a Twitter space, so grain of salt, there was the rumor of RJ Turtle the 9th for DeMontis Sabonis. That was
I did
almost
hear about
done.
this before.
That would actually not. That would kill me. I don't want that shit.
Come on now, live like there's a lot to live for, man. Don't let do that to you, man. Don't never let any team do that to you.
That doesn't work with Scotty. that's
man. If you've been around long the Raptors, we survived Vince Carter trades. We can survive that, man. We've been through
you got that right.
I almost would have wanted to see that happen just for the reaction of the fan base, just how people would melt down because of it.
Yeah.
I mean, at least Sabonis has some functionality. I don't want Zach LaVine, for example.
That's true. Like he can actually run the offense that Darko wants. Like actually, if you're being fair, he actually legitimately could run the offense Darko wants. That part I'll give him credit for. But anything else, no thanks. I would dislike Sabonis, but like.
Yeah, it's just him and Quickly is just a worse version of him and Fox. So it's like, what's the point?
Oh gosh, I didn't even think about the Quickly part of
that. Just a quick point about Siakam, just as Daniel Frank mentioned. I think for Siakam, from what I heard, people talk about max from like a money standpoint. I think it was about maximum years. I think he wanted a 5-year deal, and they only gave him or offered him a 1+1 like the year before, and that's just disrespectful.
I think it was a 2+1, not a 1+1.
Or even a 2+1, like even that, like because they thought that he was going to drop off a cliff. I just again like. I just think that.
But you see, that is the point. What you said there is going back to what we say all the time. They don't understand their own personnel.
No.
you watch
No.
Siakam's game, there's nothing in Siakam's game that will tell you in this case he's going to drop off. His game's not.
No.
Like people think it's Siakam from when he's like a rookie, just running up and down like a gazelle.
He has a very floor-oriented game as well.
Yes. It's very truncated on what he does. He picks his spots. He knows where his spots are on the floor, and it's very straightforward. There's not a lot of like flying over guys. Even though I must admit that dunk over Williams was crazy, so he could churn it up when he needs to. But he's not doing that on every third play. And I think these guys seem to act like in this case this is Siakam from like that 2018 or 2017. That is not what this dude is. And I'm just sitting there going, like, why do you think his game will age like that? Like their lack of understanding their own personnel is it never ceases to amaze me.
Yeah, and this goes to the whole idea of like athletic peaks, where like it really does depend on how you play as well, and the way that he has played, the way that his game has aged. I mean, yes, he paces himself more on defense, but like a part of this is scheming. Like when you're funneling guys into him, having him more as a free safety. We saw it with the Pacers when he was off the floor, right? Like you even heard Richard Jefferson mention this, where it's like, oh, Turner's out there. You know, OKC feels comfortable playing small, right? Like it's like, and they don't with Siakam out there.
This Turner can't get a post up my 9-year-old.
Bro.
No, beyond. Hold on, sorry, Brandon. I think we understand this, but like as someone who has like done a little bit of studying on this and has a little bit of knowledge on this, again, I think it's very, very different than what people think. I don't think it's just like you immediately drop off. A part of it is your height and stuff like that. For example, small guards typically do not age well after age 30.
There's the exceptions, you know, like
there are, yes.
Like Chris Paul, Kyle Lowry, but even those are.
But
like
even that, as you said, it's like how they play, right?
Exactly.
Kyle Lowry used to be a lot more bursty. He used to be dunking, not all the time, but occasionally here and there. He was, especially at Villanova, he was extremely, you know. But it's like you can't. The way that you play really dictates a lot of stuff. I think like even if Siakam loses a step, even if Giannis loses a step, I think that they're still going to be perfectly, you know, like they're going to be very serviceable at a very high end.
Yeah, I mean, they have the guile in this case to make up for that. In this case, they know what the angles are. They know where to find their shots. So that's the thing that you make up for that. So to your point, the margin of degradation is going to be a little bit less, but they can make it up in different ways. Like. So, especially nowadays with sports science now, I mean, let's face it.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Taking care how you take care of your body.
Right. Exactly.
Guys, and the amount of miles that you put on guys that have not done the AAU like Gula gauntlet, like they have put less miles on their body. So that's the thing, and it's not just because he didn't fit, Darko ball, whatever the hell that is. Like I don't think anyone fits Darko ball on a 30-win team. So that's like whatever.
But Darko has his own system, though. You guys don't understand. He has his own system.
Exactly. Darko's a brilliant man who's like 5D chess. Sorry, Brandon, you were saying before though.
So on the Turner part, I've never seen a guy that's 7 foot have so many like 1 rebound, 2 rebound, 0 rebound games in my life, especially on a team that he's been on for 6 years with the same coach. Like, how are you so lost and not able to rebound and not in position? What is going on here?
Turner, yeah. I mean, Turner doesn't really. Turner just looking to score. Turner's not really much into the getting the hands, the hands dirty. And I think part of it too is that he was kind of like spoiled because Sabonis was such a rebounding machine. So he just kind of just said, well, okay, and he's just kind of started playing like that, And I think that's unfortunately sometimes when you coddle players a little bit when they're younger, that's the concern you get sometimes. Like, dude, you gotta learn to get on the boards, man. But if you have Sabonis out there getting 15 a night, that's what happens.
Yeah, and I think just to go back, just because Joe made another comment about Siakam wasn't just moved just because of the Darko stuff. I think it's one of those things where if you've ever worked in a corporate job, and sometimes like there are like the writings on the wall, they were going to get rid of you anyways. And yeah, Triple J is definitely like that. Good point. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's one of those things where like they slowly like inundate you with a whole bunch of paperwork that you don't really want to do, and like they just find ways to like make things uncomfortable. So it's if you've seen Office Space, Beyond, have you seen it?
Yes.
Yeah, where it's like suddenly like the dude is like slowly getting moved and to different places. I'm sure Will's seen this as well. And then suddenly like the dude like they take a stapler and then he's in the boiler like room and stuff like that. And they just keep moving the guy's desk around because it's like and eventually like they just forget that he's there, right? Like it's like that kind of thing.
The force his hand and they say like, "Oh, you're leaving us." Oh, that's a shame in this case here, right?
And also, to be fair, even that is a little bit of nonsense. I mean, people forget, like, we were actually in a lot of those games, and then Darko said, well, you know what? Like, I'm going to bench this guy for the fourth, going to put Dennis Schroeder out there and have him run the offense for the last 4 minutes of the game. And even Scotty and Siakam are there being like, oh, like, okay, like, let the man cook, I guess. So, I mean, at that point, like, I don't know what you're
Oh,
asking.
it's
If
just
that's
going to be
Darko ball, I
funny
don't
this
know.
year when Brandon Ingram takes over the ball weight in games. He
he's already
just
talking
dominates the ball weight in
Dark
games.
was already talking about that already. He's like, well, the isolation, we might find ways to kind of move him around. It's like, here we go. I tell you one thing.
Ingram says, "Get on my way and clear out."
Exactly. I still want to hear what William Lou had to say about that day in Detroit after the OG deal, when he sat Siakam down. And
Siakam's begging to get back in.
Yeah,
and they could have won that game, by the way.
Oh yeah, he almost said it on the podcast. Like, oh man, I just wish I could. If I ever got to sit down with him, I would like to ask that question. What is it that was said on the bench that day?
And to this, we weren't talking about Fred. So
Fred is not part of this.
Yeah, Fred's not part of this.
Fred's enjoying life on a good team. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Fred just got KD, which, to be fair, KD wanted to play with Fred and Siakam. Like at some point, you could have got those guys KD. So
I mean, he also wanted to play with Barnes. To be fair,
I don't remember him saying he wanted to play with Barnes, but fair enough.
Well, maybe that was Giannis.
I don't. I remember Giannis said that he.
Yeah, Giannis said something about Scotty.
Forwards. Yeah. I talked about Siakam and Barnes and compared himself as just saying that the game has changed. But yeah, I don't remember Giannis ever. Giannis is a better GM than that, I would say.
Do we know who's coaching the Summer League team or no?
That's a good question.
It's been Jama the last couple of years, right?
It was Jama, yeah.
I could see it being Jama.
Or it's Darko this time.
But to go back
really
on
show that visibility of work.
But Darko did the first year, right?
He did.
He did.
Because that's the first year that he was there. So,
but to go back on our draft picks, the CMB pick, it's a good pick. I like the player, I like the potential fit, but to me, that screams Darko trying to find his next Desmond Bain.
Maybe.
The guy that is a big wingish type guy. That has big defense.
I see Khan is more that type, but
Yeah, so you think that CMB is more like Desmond Bain?
Well, what I'm saying is he's trying to find his next Desmond Bain.
That's fair.
Right?
Could be.
I see him as like Randall.
Remember when Desmond Bain got drafted to the Grizzlies? He wasn't that refined. He was
still shooting 40% from the.
Well, yeah, but
from three though.
He was still similar build, I would say.
I think he's looking at him as like what he thought Precious Achiuwa could offer him as a small ball center. That's what I think he's looking at.
Yeah. But yeah,
he's like Mobo and Julius Randle combined.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Mobo was the first experiment. He's like almost like the 1.0 version, and it didn't work out. So now they got to go back now. It's like, okay, we're doing 2.0 now. All the beta. Yeah, exactly. The beta, right?
Getting close to launch.
Exactly. So we're trying to get with a different version. That's what we're
going to do this. Oh my goodness.
It was Achiuwa. Then we moved to Mobo, and that was like version 3.0. Here we go.
Yeah. You know what? This scared me because Bobby did mention him playing the 5, so that is a little bit concerning.
Yep. I'm telling you guys.
I mean, the only other one is maybe you put Scotty on 5, but we know he doesn't like playing 5.
That is going to be.
No,
I wouldn't do that after his injuries.
Yeah. Even like Siakam is a good example where Siakam had to play the 5, hurt his shoulder, so it's a tough ask for him. But yeah, I mean, we'll certainly see. I actually like CMB. don't necessarily, as I said in the video, I think I put it in the chat somewhere. I think CMB is not necessarily the best fit for this team, but it's a long summer. We just lost the president of basketball operations, folks.
Yeah, who knows what the next week's going to be for this team? I don't know. It could be quiet. It could be one where they trade Emmanuel quickly. Who knows?
It could be a lot of
The
things.
the entire organization could be on fire.
It could be. It could be. But with that being said, I think that's a pod, guys. I would say so. It's been great having you guys on. Thanks, Will, for joining. Real
No
thanks,
problem.
and same
Enjoy
to you,
it.
Brandon, Blackhawk. Mouth of the North. Thanks for joining, Coach Roach, of course. Guys, like, comment, and subscribe. I guess you're not able to comment normally, but if you're seeing this later, comment, and definitely like and subscribe, and share it if with people if you like this type of stuff. Aside from the wonky guests that we sometimes have, I'm going to try to find a way to vet people more. But yeah, that is that. Everyone, take care, peace, and enjoy your weekend, I guess.
Yep, free agency starts on Monday, so who knows?
For sure. Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
Yes. We'll do the Masai meme like. All right. That's enough.